Chapter 1948. The greatest sinner of all times, the 9 heavens supremes of the ancient taboo and the Mumin sect immediately recognized the divine battle spirit. Their faces were filled with astonishment. Even though they had a lot of speculations, they did not expect Qin Nan to be the successor of the most unique existence among the 10 immortals. The divine god of battle? The 9 heavens supremes of the Sherdao tribe, Xiang Yuanxing, and the others were dumbfounded. What? The 5th immortal? Qin Nan is the successor of the 5th immortal. Most of the cultivators in the palaces were shocked too. They were from various factions, thus they were familiar with the 10 immortals too. Even though they had no idea what was so special about the 5th immortal of the divine god of battle, they did know one thing. The 6th immortal was able to establish the 14th supreme Taoism faction when he reappeared. How terrifying would it be if he was stronger than the 6th immortal of the divine god of battle? Qin Nan, what's going on? Doom was shocked and enraged. He had just resolved the danger, yet why did the divine battle spirit show up all of a sudden? The divine battle spirit showed up on its own as if it was being summoned. Someone did something to expose me. Qin Nan frowned. He looked around him. This was definitely not done by the 3 major forces. If the 3 major forces had such means, then they wouldn't have wasted so much time talking to him in the beginning. Who was the culprit? Qin Nan suddenly noticed a faint grin on Supreme South World's face when he glanced at him. Could it be him? The thought crossed Qin Nan's mind. It made sense if it was Supreme South World. The man held a grudge against him, and he was currently following the beast hide drawing. It was not surprising that he knew how to summon the divine battle spirit. Qin Nan, what are you waiting for? Let's go to the sacred area first. Doom yelled. Qin Nan immediately collected his thoughts. He turned into a ray of light and disappeared into the white mist at the end of the bridge. Fellow cultivators, our patriarch has already declared that if you dare to do anything to Qin Nan before he becomes a 9 heavens supreme, we'll kill you every time we see you. Today, I won't be playing with you anymore. Upon seeing this, Wu Shen grinned and kept his saber. Supreme South World withdrew his smile. His eyes flickered coldly. He turned around and disappeared into the rift. The 9 heavens supremes of the ancient taboo and the 9 heavens supremes of the Sherdao tribe collected their thoughts. They immediately left after transmitting their thoughts. Xiang Yuanxing, hurry up and enter the 24 sacred areas. You must bring Qin Nan back to the clan and put him on trial. The 9 heavens supreme of the Sherdao tribe snapped. All right. Xiang Yuanxing's eyes flickered murderously. He led a few cultivators into the white mist. In less than 2 hours, all kinds of news had spread to the various factions, including the Supreme Transforming Realms in the Supreme Transforming Realms. Qin Nan has come to the 1st Immortal Realm. Qin Nan is the successor of the 5th Immortal. Tisk Tsk, no wonder Qin Nan dares to call himself the strongest immortal. I'm afraid only a handful of peerless rulers are comparable to Qin Nan. The successor of the 5th immortal? Interesting, very interesting. The divine god of battle claimed to be able to fight against the heavens and earth. There's nothing he doesn't fight and nothing he doesn't win against. I would like to see if he can defeat me. Many cultivators were attracted by the news. They discussed among themselves. Some were astounded, while others were intrigued. Even Jiang Ni, Lu Gufeng, Meng Jingxian, and other exceptional geniuses who were considered the strongest in their factions, or Zhang Gu, Yi and other exceptional geniuses with shocking backgrounds, were unable to trigger such a huge commotion. Even Empress Feiyue's influence when she first came to the 1st Immortal Realm was not as great as Qin Nan's. Meanwhile, the authorities of the Sky Taihuang sect, Heaven-repelling Ancient sect, Immortal-slaying sect, Mumin sect, Wengu tribe, Tribe of Immortal Spirits, and other factions were having a meeting. These authorities were aware of the secrets behind the 10 immortals. They were also aware of the uniqueness of the divine god of battle. Now that the successor of the divine god of battle had reappeared, they would have to rely on their own strength to decide what to do next and how to deal with Qin Nan. Meanwhile, the Sherdao tribe in the void heaven realm of the first immortal realm, bang, bang, bang. Terrifying auras surged into the clouds and shook the surroundings like immortal swords that had been sealed for countless years being awakened. They were not 9 heavens supremes, but authorities in the master realm. It's been a few thousand years, it's been a few thousand years. That traitor Xiang Zun has finally shown himself. Senior brother, don't be so emotional. Either way, young Master Xiang Zun is already dead. The one that showed up is only his successor. How dare you call him young master? Are you trying to rebel? Xiang Zun is the greatest sinner of our tribe. What he has done is unforgivable. It's too easy for him to die 10,000 times. That's enough, stop arguing. Our Sherdao tribe has been following the order to kill Xiang Zun for generations. Even if Xiang Zun is dead, we can't let his successor live. Pass down my order, we'll hold a clan meeting at once. A strong murderous aura surged across the place. Meanwhile, the mysterious place where the ancient taboo was located in the void heaven realm, a piercing laugh echoed in the place. The skeletons trembled in fear. They had never seen the ancient taboo acting like this even when the 6th immortal showed up. Very well. The 9th immortal, the 6th immortal, the undying cycle mountain, even you are here. It seems like you bunch of pricks are trying to make a comeback. Have you forgotten the lesson you learned from the battle in the past? The ancient taboo roared furiously. The rules in the surroundings rumbled vigorously. The rare phenomenon lasted for a few thousand breaths before it finally calmed down. A pair of crimson eyes sprang open in the darkness and stared at the skeletons. Go and break the seals. Acknowledged. The group of skeletons quickly responded. Qin Nan has achieved the greater success stage of the peerless ruler realm. He has come to the first immortal realm for the opportunity to achieve the 9 heavens supreme realm. Right now, in the supreme transforming left and right realms, there are many people who should not exist in this world, who have come. That's good too. This king can catch all of you in one fell swoop and save this king a lot of trouble. Chapter 1949. The Voice of the Touring Spirit, the 24th sacred area of the heavens and earth. In the supreme transforming left realm, Qin Nan's figure descended from the sky and landed on the ground. Qin Nan immediately looked around him. The sky was pitch black with stars flickering in the night sky. The land around him had ancient, magnificent mountains. Snowflakes were falling from the sky. Strangely, the snowflakes did not feel any coldness. They did not form a pile of snow after landing on the ground. They simply disappeared. Qin Nan took a closer look. Each snowflake seemed to be made of words, but the words were extremely blurry. He could not see them clearly. Whoosh! A figure appeared in front of Qin Nan. The figure was over 5 zhang tall. He was entirely made of gold. His eyes were like ice crystals. Ancient talismans were stuck to his neck. He was not emitting any aura. Cultivator 4009, I'm the envoy that receives you. I will insert a force into your body. It will seal off your flesh and take away your soul to another space. It's up to fate where you will end up. If you die in the other space, you will also die completely. Is that okay? The divine envoy said indifferently. There was not the slightest fluctuation in his tone. Qin Nan, remove the seal of the heaven-repairing cauldron. I'm going too. Doom blurted out. He had achieved the perfect stage of the Tao realm. He had recovered around 40% of his cultivation. He had a chance to become a 9 heavens supreme too. Besides, it was too dangerous to stay with Qin Nan. He might as well take a risk and assess the situation later. All right. Qin Nan nodded. He activated the heaven-repairing cauldron. He could roughly guess what Doom was thinking, but Doom had helped him a lot along the way. It was his choice to make. The envoy repeated his words and Doom nodded immediately. A beam of light shot out of the envoy's hand and entered Doom's body. Doom disappeared on the spot. It's here? Qin Nan raised his brows in astonishment when he sensed the energy ripples in the sky. He said, "Sure." The guiding oracle shot a beam of light at Qin Nan. "Damn it. I'm one step too late." Xiang Yuanqing's expression darkened when he saw Qin Nan vanishing into thin air. He harumphed coldly and left the 24th sacred area. He had no interest in the sacred area. A few moments later, Qin Nan sensed that he had arrived at a terrifying and unfamiliar place. However, before he could inspect his surroundings, an indescribable force suppressed his figure. This was to imprison his physical body and strip his soul. However, the ownerless heaven pattern in Qin Nan's divine sense suddenly glowed. Boom! It felt like two peak 9 heavens supremes were unleashing their full power and clashing with one another. Qin Nan could only feel his surroundings shaking vigorously before the mysterious force disappeared. The pressure on his body instantly lightened. Qin Nan was startled. Why did the ownerless heaven pattern interfere all of a sudden? Qin Nan, you, Empress Feiyue, seemed to be aware of something unusual. She wanted to say something, yet an invisible force stopped her as soon as she spoke. Her voice could not be heard. She was clueless about what was going on. Immortal flames flickered in Qin Nan's eyes as he collected his thoughts. The ownerless heaven pattern suddenly interfered and cut off the connection between me and the copper mirror. It seems like it's trying to trick me into something, and it doesn't want anyone to know. Qin Nan glanced at his surroundings as the thought crossed his mind. With a single glance, even he could not help but reveal a look of astonishment in his eyes. He was currently standing on a dojo at the top of a mountain. A few 100,000 zhang in front of him was an ice pillar over 100,000 zhang wide. Its bottom was suppressing the ground while its top was supporting the sky. It was unbelievably huge, as if it was the backbone of the sacred area. Inside such a terrifying ice pillar were numerous cultivators and enormous demonic beasts. They lay there quietly, motionless, without any aura. Only the expressions on their faces were constantly changing, sometimes pleasantly surprised, sometimes angry. Doom was among them too. I didn't think the cultivators who came here would be trapped here, Qin Nan exclaimed as he collected his thoughts. The ice pillar was too terrifying. Even though he had no idea what the Master Realm was like and what kind of power it possessed, he knew it was extremely difficult to create an ice pillar like it. But I don't think the ownerless heaven pattern only wants me to take a look at the ice pillar. There must be something else. Qin Nan calmed his thoughts and looked around. He saw that below the terrifying ice pillar, there was a circle of mysterious ancient runes that covered an area of several 100,000 feet. Moreover, one of the runes was like a long dragon that extended into the distance. Qin Nan pondered for a moment. He unleashed his immortal force and flew toward the runes. Half an hour later, a stone palace appeared in front of him. The stone palace was not huge. It was around 1,000 zhang wide and 100 zhang tall. It only had 2 floors. It did not have any special runes or drawings on it. However, its aura was extremely ancient, as if he had just arrived at the beginning of the world. Qin Nan stared at it for a while. He took a deep breath and flew into the stone palace. He pushed the door open and went inside. In an instant, an incomparably chaotic aura enveloped his entire body, causing him to feel as if time and space were in chaos, as if he had returned to the primordial era. Meanwhile, the ownerless heaven pattern in his divine sense glowed once again. It unleashed a strong force to absorb the chaotic aura into it. The ownerless heaven pattern wants the aura. Qin Nan murmured. The ownerless heaven pattern was given to him by the divine god of battle. The beast-hide drawing was looking for it too. It clearly displayed how mysterious and extraordinary it was. Qin Nan did not know much about it. However, it seemed like he was about to uncover some of the secrets of the ownerless heaven pattern in the sacred area. Qin Nan remained still as the thought crossed his mind. He allowed the ownerless heaven pattern to absorb the aura. A few moments later, the ownerless heaven pattern showed no sign of slowing down. However, a hoarse voice suddenly appeared in Qin Nan's mind. It was the battle of wills. Master, I'm the spirit of the pattern. Master Xiang Zun has sealed a part of the memory of your past life deep inside the pattern. It will only bring you more harm than good if you possess the memory too early. Chapter 1950. The Oracle with a broken image. Qin Nan was startled. He did not expect the ownerless heaven pattern to have a pattern spirit. Tu Ling, can you tell me who I was in my previous life? Qin Nan asked after collecting his thoughts. However, the pattern spirit did not answer his question. He added, Master, now that you've entered the sacred area, there's something I have to tell you. You almost got your hands on it after putting in so much effort in the past. Now that times have changed, it's your best chance to get it. You must head to the 7th sacred area. A drop of your blood is hidden deep inside it. You can use it to enter the 1st sacred area, and you will have a chance to get it. I don't care what price I have to pay, even if I have to eliminate the danger for you and disappear forever, I must get it. By the way, Master, you must promise me that no matter how much you trust the others, you won't tell anyone about it, including that woman. Otherwise, they will be in great trouble. The pattern spirit's voice gradually weakened. In the end, the ownerless heaven pattern lost its glow and stopped absorbing the chaotic aura in the hall. Pattern spirit? Qin Nan tried to transmit his thought. The ownerless heaven pattern did not respond even after a while. It seemed like the ownerless heaven pattern was injured in the past, causing the pattern spirit to fall into a deep slumber. It was only able to wake up because it had absorbed the chaotic aura in the hall. However, the chaotic aura could only wake it up for a short while. It was unable to heal its injuries and wake it up completely. Qin Nan took a deep breath. Even though he still had a lot of questions, it seemed like there was no way he could answer them now. He would only know the answers after he achieved the 9 heavens supreme realm and awakened the incomplete memories of his past life in the pattern. Qin Nan, what just happened? Empress Feiyue's voice appeared. The ownerless heaven pattern. Qin Nan said, the pattern spirit told me that I will awaken the incomplete memories of my past life after I achieved the 9 heavens supreme realm. On top of that, it asked me to go to the 7th sacred area. There's a drop of my blood there. We'll head to the 1st sacred area after we get the blood. Qin Nan didn't tell her that he was going to find that thing. Since Tu Ling had asked him to do it in such a serious way, he didn't want to bring trouble to the copper mirror. Qin Nan already had a vague guess in his heart. Based on the current clues, his past life was a terrifying existence that even he could not imagine. In that case, the item that he had spent so much effort to obtain in his previous life was something that he had failed to obtain. It was enough to show how terrifying that item was. Sword Master Canhong once mentioned that the 72 sacred areas of the heavens and earth were closely related to one another. They did not exist to help people achieve the 9 heavens supreme realm. The existence called Supreme Dustlight even mentioned that there were only 36 of the 72 sacred areas of the heavens and earth when they were first born. They only became 72 after a great battle. They were basically there to hide a shocking secret. Perhaps the thing that Turing mentioned was related to this big secret. I see. Empress Feiyue said expressionlessly, Qin Nan, your breakthrough to the 9 heavens supreme realm is related to your past life. Then, when you advance, I wonder what kind of changes will occur. Qin Nan nodded. He was well aware of what the copper mirror was implying. When he achieved the martial monarch realm, Jiang Bailan had turned into the crystal of death for him. When he achieved the martial god realm, Princess Miao Miao had vanished into thin air. Using the words of the beast skin painting, the more heaven-defying an existence was, the stronger they became in this world, and the greater the calamity they had to face would be. Even though nothing happened when he achieved the peerless ruler realm, there was no telling what would happen when he achieved the nine heavens supreme realm. What are you planning to do next? Head to the seventh sacred area of the heavens and earth? Empress Feiyue asked calmly. Not for now. Qin Nan said after a slight hesitation. I'll pay a visit to the Kanglan continent before that. There was going to be a great storm ahead of him. No one could predict what the outcome would be. It was time for him to return to where he used to be and spend some time with his father and his old friends before he decided to take the risk. Qin Nan did not notice the hint of admiration in Empress Feiyue's icy blue eyes. She said coldly, if that's the case, why don't you take a look at the palace? You might have a chance to return to the Kanglan continent. She was very interested in this stone palace. After all, many people had entered the 24th sacred area of the heavens and earth over the years, yet their flesh was sealed inside the terrifying ice pillars. They had no idea what was going on outside. That's reasonable. Qin Nan's eyes flickered as he exhaled deeply. It took him a few breaths to calm his thoughts, before he proceeded to the front of the hall. The chaotic aura in the palace was quite strong. Qin Nan tried to absorb it, yet he failed to do so. In addition to it, the aura was greatly suppressing his eye technique and flesh. Even when he tried to resist it with his immortal force, it felt like a huge rock was pressing down on him. He had no choice but to slowly move forward. It took Qin Nan half an hour to reach the stairs leading to the second floor. He finally saw everything on the first floor. It was completely empty, without a single thing in sight. Qin Nan frowned. He started walking up the stairs. When he was only a few steps away, it felt like he had passed through an invisible door and arrived at another world. The pressure from before suddenly disappeared. The chaotic aura was gone too. On top of that, a few voices suddenly appeared in the silence. Holy crap, you tricked me. I won't accept it, let's do it again, I won't believe it. Ha ha ha, 6 swords, I got 6 swords. You asshole. Did you cheat? Say, can you guys stop betting? Let's go and see how the others are doing. Otherwise, at this rate, when are we going to be reincarnated? Qin Nan was dumbfounded. There were people here? Moreover, there were many people who seemed to be gambling. Qin Nan went up the last few steps and entered the second floor. He immediately saw an unbelievable sight. The spacious palace was filled with many statues and all kinds of broken weapons scattered across the place. It was extremely messy. Chapter 1951. The Return of the King, F***K no way, keep going. The spirit envoys whose image had completely crumbled did not notice Qin Nan's arrival. They continued to yell. Many of them were even betting with their faces flushed red. Qin Nan's lips twisted. He finally spoke after some time. I say, the spirit envoys stiffened. They quickly put away the dice, beast legs, and immortal wine with a cold expression. A cultivator has entered, go receive him at once. I'll go take a look at the 5 seeds. The spirit envoys immediately straightened their faces. They disappeared into thin air without even looking at Qin Nan. The remaining spirit envoys were about to turn around and apologize when they saw Qin Nan's face. They were startled. Holy crap, so it's not Senior. The indifference on the faces of the divine envoys instantly collapsed as they let out long sighs of relief. Qin Nan, it seems like these spirit envoys are under someone's control. It's very likely that the 24th sacred area has something like a realm spirit. Besides, according to the spirit envoys, they must be cultivators of the 9 heavens immortal realm in the past. Empress Feiyue said coldly. She had already learned a lot from the little details. Something isn't right. The spirit envoys immediately collected their thoughts. Their eyes flickered with astonishment, How did you get rid of the icicles? It was their first time seeing a cultivator like that. It's because of some special reasons. Qin Nan would not tell them about the ownerless heaven pattern. Humph, either way, you've seen something you shouldn't have. You only have two paths now. Either you die, or you become the guiding oracle after you die. The eyes of the spirit envoys turned cold. In an instant, a formless aura swept through the entire hall, and a huge pressure pressed down on Qin Nan. Even though the guiding oracles had no cultivation, they seemed to have become one with the 24th sacred area of the heavens and earth. They could mobilize the power of the sacred area. If he fought with them, he would most likely be going against the entire sacred area. Qin Nan's heart sank as various thoughts flashed through his mind. At this moment, a divine thought suddenly entered the minds of these divine envoys. These divine envoys were stunned. "TSK, you're lucky, kid. Master said not to make things difficult for you," one of the divine envoys said with a hint of curiosity in his eyes. The young man was only a peerless ruler. Why would their master treat him so differently? "The lord that the oracle is talking about is," Qin Nan was puzzled. "This is not something you should know." A guide waved his hand. The murderous aura that he was emitting a moment ago vanished instantly, replaced by an indecent smile. "Brother, it's been a long time since a cultivator came to this place. Why don't we have a bet? It's guaranteed to be exciting." "That's right, let's have a go." Qin Nan was left speechless. They were all at each other's throats just a moment ago, yet they had turned into this in the blink of an eye. "Oracles, I'm sorry, but I don't know how to bet." Qin Nan blurted out, "I'm only here to ask if I can go to the Kanglan continent in the secondary lower realm." The divine envoys exchanged glances with one another. One of them chuckled, "Since you're here, why don't we assign you a mission to go back to the secondary lower realm? However, you have to win the bet." Another immediately said, "The rules are simple, we'll roll the dice to see who's bigger or smaller. 6 swords are the biggest, and 1 sword is the smallest. We'll roll 5 dice at a time." Qin Nan's lips twisted. Were these guys the guiding oracles or gamblers? However, even if Qin Nan did not know how to bet, he had no choice but to take the dice. "Ha ha ha, only 10 swords in total, you're going to lose for sure." "Kami, I got 6 ones." "Ha ha ha, I got 29 swords, I'm going to win for sure." Kami, 6 blue dragons. In the next hour, the oracles who refused to admit defeat looked as if they had seen a ghost. From the initial uproar, they were beaten into complete silence. Even Qin Nan felt a little embarrassed. He had never played the game before, thus he did not expect to be so lucky. "Senior Dice Master, here are 2 quests related to the Kanglan continent. The first is to return to the Kanglan continent and become the prince of the sky-scorching ancient kingdom, leading the army against the army of the sacred moon continent. The second quest is to return to the Kanglan continent and eliminate the Hall Master of the Evil Shrine," one of the divine envoys said respectfully. Qin Nan let out a cough. "Senior Dice Master? What the hell?" "The second one it is, by the way, just call me Qin Nan," Qin Nan said after a slight hesitation. "Sure, Senior Dice Master." Following it, the 5 guiding oracles fired rays of light into Qin Nan's body. Qin Nan immediately felt the world spinning as a magnificent force encapsulated him and brought him across a great distance. Unlike the others, he had returned to the Kanglan continent with his flesh. The guiding oracles had purposely offered it to the Dice Master. Meanwhile, the first immortal realm, the Void Heaven realm, some ancient ruins, a woman in a long robe with a glamorous face and a magnificent aura was standing in the middle of the ruins. Everything she passed by was turned into ice crystals. The woman was none other than the current strongest 9 heavens supreme, Empress Feiyu. If the 24th sacred area is the same, the other sacred areas must be the same too. It seems like the 72 sacred areas of the heavens and earth are the same as the place in the void heaven realm. Even though the information Qin Nan gave her was not a lot, it was enough to answer many of her doubts. Achieving the 9 heavens supreme realm, awakening the memories of his past life, the flower of eternity, practicing 12 Tao of Tao, the 6th immortal, the 7th immortal, the Wutian demon emperor, the Sherdao tribe, the ancient taboo empress Feiyue murmured. Unknowingly, as Qin Nan's cultivation continued to improve, the things that he was involved in had reached a significant level. It's time to seek the Tao. A moment later, Empress Feiyue raised her head. Her eyes sharpened as if she was staring at an ancient world. A 9 heavens supreme, seeking the Tao and becoming the master of the place. Time gradually passed. Even though the first immortal realm was experiencing a lot of commotions, nothing too shocking happened. As usual, some people fell while others rose. All kinds of schemes were taking place. 5 days later, the magnificent force encapsulating Qin Nan's figure suddenly disappeared. His figure fell from the sky as an indescribable sense of familiarity and intimacy arose in his heart. Chapter 1952. Evil Shrine. Qin Nan was now on top of a mountain peak that was tens of thousands of feet high. All around him were towering ancient trees, singing birds, and fragrant flowers. Spirit Qi was abundant. Qin Nan closed his eyes and sensed in silence. 1,000 breaths later, he slowly opened his eyes with a faint smile on his face. Although he was unfamiliar with his surroundings, he felt an inexplicable warmth in his chest. This world recorded everything that had happened to him in the past. Woo woo woo. All of a sudden, a strong gust of wind blew on the mountain. The vast sky was dyed in a myriad of colors, as all kinds of strange phenomena took place. Qin Nan, I didn't expect you to return to the Kanglan continent. An imperious voice came from the rift. It's you. Qin Nan was surprised. You have spiritual intelligence now? The imperious voice was none other than the primordial rules of the Kanglan continent. It had sided with Qin Nan during the battle against the Monarch ranking, God ranking, and South Heaven Gate. However, at that time it was still very weak. After the South Heaven Gate, Monarch ranking, and God ranking were defeated in the past, I was able to control the primary force of the Kanglan continent. The imperious voice chuckled. However, I'm still a far cry from you. You've only been to the 9 heavens immortal realm for more than a year, yet you've already become a peerless ruler in the greater success stage. Its voice was filled with astonishment. Even though it knew Qin Nan was going to make a name for himself in the 9 heavens immortal realm, it did not expect Qin Nan to achieve such a remarkable feat. You don't have to say such superfluous words. What business do you have with me? Qin Nan smiled and waved his hand. Qin Nan, your cultivation is just too terrifying. Even though the Kanglan continent is stronger than before, it still can't endure your cultivation. You have to suppress your cultivation to the human god realm. The dignified voice laughed bitterly. The moment Qin Nan arrived, it felt as if the continent was about to collapse. Don't worry about that. Qin Nan nodded. One more thing, after you left, a new faction was born in the Kanglan continent. It's called the Evil Shrine. It's going to be tricky for the Hall Master of the Evil Shrine to refine the Kanglan continent. Besides, the Kanglan continent is only considered average in the secondary lower realm. The other high-tier continents have been eyeing the Kanglan continent, the majestic voice continued. Qin Nan said in annoyance, How did you become a primordial law? Now that I've finally returned, you want me to settle these things with you? The imperious voice coughed softly and said, You're the god of Kanglan among the cultivators of the Kanglan continent. You should be in charge of these matters. Qin Nan rolled his eyes and said, All right, I understand. I came here this time to eliminate the evil fiend Hall. As for the matters of the other continents, find an opportunity to call those primitive laws over for a chat. "All right, I'll do it right away." The voice was no longer imperious. It was filled with joy. Qin Nan shook his head. However, he could understand how the primitive laws of the Kanglan continent felt. The authorities of the 9 heavens kept descending from the 9 heavens, and stronger continents were keeping an eye on them. Similarly, the primitive laws of the Kanglan continent wanted to grow stronger too. Qin Nan was well aware of it. He did not mind lending a hand. After all, when Feiyue returned to the Kanglan continent, she had already made preparations to prevent the primitive laws of the Kanglan continent from becoming like the monarch ranking, god ranking, and South Heaven Gate. The rare phenomenon in the sky dissipated. Qin Nan suddenly realized that it had been a few dozen years since the Kanglan continent. Many changes must have taken place. He should ask the primitive laws of the Kanglan continent. "Junior sister, it's there. Judging from the rare phenomenon, there must be some kind of treasure over there." At this moment, a few voices sounded out. A young man with short blue hair and wearing a long robe, a young man with black hair that reached his shoulders and wearing a treasure robe, and a young woman with delicate facial features and a hot figure flew over together. Qin Nan lifted his gaze. The 2 young men were peak martial sacred realm cultivators, while the young woman had achieved the half-martial ancestor realm. The fact that they were able to achieve such a cultivation at such a young age indicated that they had quite a formidable background in the Kanglan continent. Who are you?" The young man with short blue hair was the first to notice Qin Nan. He came to a stop and asked, "I'm Qin Nan." Qin Nan said with a calm smile. "Qin Nan?" The 3 of them were stunned. "Who gave you that name?" "It's the same name as the god of Kanglan." The young man with shoulder-length black hair snapped, "You better change it as soon as possible. We have good tempers, but if you meet someone with a bad temper, they might beat the crap out of you." Qin Nan rubbed his nose and said, "You've misunderstood. I'm the god of Kanglan that you're talking about, Qin Nan." The 3 were startled once again, before they burst out laughing. "Ha! Are you out of your mind to be Senior Qin Nan? If you're the god of Kanglan, I'm still the Martial Serendipity Pavilion, the master of the Tao Origin Heavenly Mountain, and the chief of the Battle Tribe." The young man with shoulder-length black hair burst out laughing. The young man with short blue hair and the seductive young woman were blushing too. Every city and faction in the Kanglan continent, apart from the Evil Shrine, had a statue of Qin Nan, thus they clearly remembered Qin Nan's appearance. However, apart from the shape of his face, how did the person before them resemble Senior Qin Nan? Besides, Senior Qin Nan had already ascended to the 9 heavens. Why would he be here in the Kanglan continent? "Oh my God, my stomach hurts from laughing so much." The young man with shoulder-length black hair rubbed his stomach. He finally calmed down and said, "Even though you're a little out of your mind, you're quite interesting. I'm Chang Lo, he's Chang Qing, and this is our junior sister, Xiao Ling. It might scare you, but we're disciples of the 9 words ancient sea. My junior sister Xiao Ling is ranked in the top 30 on the Earth ranking." Xiao Ling rolled her eyes. "Just ignore him, he likes to show off." Despite that, she subtly lifted her chin. It was obvious that she was proud to be ranked in the top 30 on the Earth ranking. Qin Nan asked curiously, "What's the Earth ranking?" Chang Qing was astounded. "Brother Qin, you don't even know about it?" The 9 words ancient sea, the god-beast forbidden ground, the battle tribe, the heavenly fortune tribe, and the lost herb garden have teamed up to establish the Earth ranking and the heaven ranking in the sacred hall of the second continent. Those who are ranked on the 2 rankings are rare geniuses. They are likely to be martial monarchs and martial gods in the future. Qin Nan was surprised. Why would the factions establish the 2 rankings? Chang Qing and Chang Le looked like they had just seen a ghost. Xiao Linger was astounded too, but she soon collected her thoughts and said, "Cultivator, have you been cultivating in the mountains for the past few decades? What happened in the outside world?" In the 5th year of Qin Miao's first year, a group of mysterious experts came to the Kanglan continent and established the evil shrine. Even when the factions teamed up, they could only fight them to a draw. Chapter 1953. Dragon God Qin Nan said, "If that's the case, this evil shrine isn't as simple as I thought." Xiao Linger was left speechless after seeing his reaction. She said, "Not only is it not simple, rumors say that the Hall Master of the evil shrine was once one of the top 10 experts of the Sacred Emperor continent, the strongest continent in the secondary lower realm. He later ascended to the 9 heavens and achieved an unbelievable level. The Kanglan continent was no longer as isolated as it used to be. The news about the secondary lower realm, the other continents, and the 9 heavens immortal realm had already spread." Qin Nan raised his brows. He was from the 9 heavens? Didn't he know Empress Feiyue was from the Kanglan continent? Damn, we were too busy talking to you. Let's go and look for the treasure. Chang Le patted his head and blurted out. Qin Nan said with a calm smile, "There isn't any treasure here." The three cast disdainful glances at Qin Nan. There was such a huge rare phenomenon, yet there was no treasure. Who are you trying to fool? The three ignored Qin Nan and flew into the mountain. In less than 100 breaths' time, they returned with gloomy expressions. They had taken a quick look at the mountain. It was completely barren. There was not even a single natural resource, let alone any treasure. Wait a second. Don't tell me you've taken the treasure? Chang Qing's eyes flickered with doubt as a thought crossed his mind. Qin Nan remained silent. He raised his finger and shattered the towering trees in the distance into pieces. Not a single piece was left. The expressions of the three instantly turned into one of extreme astonishment. Only a martial monarch could do something like that. Holy crap, who would have thought you were hiding your strength so well? You're a martial monarch. Chang Le blurted out. As the god of Kanglan, isn't it normal for me to be able to do that? Qin Nan shrugged. Humph. The three immediately wore disdainful looks. Even though the guy was a martial monarch, he was only a martial monarch. How could he possibly be comparable to their god of Kanglan? Qin Nan shrugged and said, "You didn't find the treasure, so where do you plan to go next?" Xiao Ling and the other two exchanged glances before Xiao Ling said, "We came out this time to carry out a mission. Now that the mission is complete, we are ready to head to the God-Beast Forbidden area. The dragon god of the God-Beast Forbidden Ground is about to ascend today. As the new god, the disciples of our factions should congratulate him." Although the three of them were wary of Qin Nan, their guard was very low. After all, this Qin Nan in front of them was a great emperor. If he was really their enemy, he would have attacked them long ago. There was no need for him to ask such obvious questions. In their opinion, this guy in front of them was just a cultivation maniac who cultivated in seclusion alone and admired Senior Qin Nan very much. Oh? Small Worm hasn't ascended yet? Qin Nan was astounded before he said, "All right, if you don't mind, can I go with you?" If Small Worm was going to ascend and the disciples of various factions were going to attend the ceremony, it was likely that his father and the others would be there too. It would save him the trouble of looking for them one by one. That won't be a problem. The four set out on their journey and flew into the distance. Along the way, Qin Nan enjoyed the scenery and asked them questions from time to time. He gradually learned more about the Kanglan continent. It was now the 49th year of Qin Miao's first year. Many geniuses from the 9 Words Ancient Sea, the God-Beast Forbidden Ground, and other factions had achieved the martial monarch realm and achieved the martial god realm. As a result, the Kanglan continent that was initially at the bottom of the secondary lower realm had risen to the middle of the secondary lower realm. Its strength was not far away from the 5 continents of the secondary lower realm. On top of that, the evil shrine had risen abruptly in the past 10 years. They kept killing the experts of various factions and claimed that the real god of the Kanglan continent was not Qin Nan, But the evil god. Some people were assimilated, but most of them were infuriated. However, any cultivator or faction that did not believe it would be attacked by the evil shrine. Some of the smaller factions were wiped out. Qin Nan's eyes turned cold, especially when he heard that the sky-scorching ancient kingdom that was second only to the other factions in the Middle Continent had lost 20 cities, resulting in over 10,000 casualties. Not long after, Qin Nan and his crew arrived at the God-Beast Forbidden Ground. The God-Beast Forbidden Ground was no longer the same as before. Several enormous islands floated above the vast ocean with strong beastly auras. Each of the islands was connected by a great formation. The formation was extraordinarily powerful. Even a peak martial god realm expert would not be able to break through it. Qin Nan followed Chang Lo and the others on an ancient boat that was heading to the God-Beast Island. He stared into the distance. Small Worm, Ao Tsangtian, the master of the Tao Origin Heavenly Mountain, many of them are here. Qin Nan quickly scanned the islands, the forbidding auras, and the cultivators. Many people will be here for the Dragon God's ascension this time, including the authorities. Even though you're a martial monarch, you shouldn't mention that you're Qin Nan, let alone that you're Senior Qin Nan. Do you understand? Xiao Ling said sternly. Qin Nan smiled and nodded. As such, it was quite interesting. The ancient boat soon landed on the God-Beast Island. Qin Nan and his crew immediately disembarked from the boat and headed to the center of the island under the guidance of the disciples of the God-Beast Forbidden Ground. Not long after, 3 enormous dojos over 50,000 zhang long floating in the air appeared before their eyes. Each dojo was filled with various kinds of seats. In the distance, some martial monarchs and martial gods turned into rays of light and landed on the dojos. An imperious aura filled the place. Oh my god, the dragon god's rallying power is really extraordinary. I'm afraid all the experts of the major forces have come. Chang Li's figure trembled in excitement. Such a grand occasion only happened once every 50 years. Let's head inside. I heard that the geniuses ranked in the top 10 on the heaven ranking are all here. Xiao Ling was quite excited too. They entered the third dojo under the guidance of the disciples of the God-Beast Forbidden Ground. The seats on the dojo were divided into 5 types, corresponding to 5 different cultivations and statuses. Xiao Ling was ranked in the top 30 on the Earth ranking, thus she was seated in the 3rd class. Chang Lu and Chang Qing were seated in the 4th class. However, Xiao Ling was quite a nice person. She purposely asked her master to help her take care of Qin Nan, allowing Qin Nan to sit beside her. Hey, look over there, that's Lei Huan who's ranked 9th on the heaven ranking. I heard he's the successor of the Longhu martial god, with the bloodline of the heavenly dragon and thunderous tiger. And that one, he's ranked 1st on the heaven ranking. Chapter 1954. Bowing. Qin Nan glanced at Lei Huan. His lips twisted. Lei Huan's eyes, nose, and face were no different from Longhu's. He was no successor, he was obviously Longhu's son. Qin Nan glanced at the rest of the geniuses ranked in the top 10 on the heaven ranking and nodded slightly. These people were quite impressive indeed. They had achieved the martial monarch realm at such a young age, and had mastered many kinds of moves, granting them outstanding strength. Ordinary martial monarchs were no match against them. They are quite impressive, but they were too impatient to achieve the martial monarch realm since the martial ancestor, which resulted in them not having a good foundation. I should be more careful and think of a way to fix it. Qin Nan said, Xiao Linger, you're now a half-martial monarch realm, so you should pay attention to your foundation too. The better your foundation, the more benefits you will have in the future. As soon as these words were spoken, cold gazes were cast from all around. Even though his voice was not loud, the cultivators nearby had all achieved the martial progenitor realm and above, thus they were able to hear him clearly. Xiao Linger's expression sank as she snapped, Stop talking nonsense if you don't know anything. Every genius on the heaven ranking would cultivate the tree of the martial ancestor to the limit when they achieved the martial monarch realm. How is it possible for them to have a bad foundation? Are you kidding me? If the geniuses ranked in the top 10 on the heaven ranking did not have a good foundation, which martial monarch in the Kanglan continent would have a good foundation? Linger, you should keep your friend in check. Even though the factions are united against a common enemy, it's still going to bring him trouble if he keeps talking nonsense. Xiao Linger's master, an old peak martial monarch sitting in the second row, said with an expressionless face. Got it. Xiao Linger nodded. She then glared at Qin Nan and said, No matter what happens later, don't say a word. Otherwise, I won't be able to help you if something happens. Saying this, she turned around and ignored Qin Nan. Qin Nan let out a calm smile without saying anything further. From all directions, disciples and experts from various forces entered the arena one after another. The 3 dojos were crowded with people, with all kinds of discussions taking place. It was not until 2,000 breaths later that the sound of a bell could be heard from the depths of Demon God Island. Welcome, Lord Dragon God. Following this, the disciples of the god-beast Forbidden Ground and the beasts immediately bowed. Their voices soared into the sky and echoed in the surroundings. The entire scene was extremely grand and shocking. Even some of the martial monarchs present were astounded upon seeing this. Roar! At this moment, a long howl shook the heavens and the earth. An enormous dragon over 10,000 zhang long, covered in purple-golden scales, with a magnificent battle intent, soared into the sky with an incomparable aura. In an instant, the entire Demon God Island turned dark. Countless lightning flashed in the clouds, as if they were about to strike and destroy everything. The faces of many martial ancestor and martial monarchs turned pale. This aura was truly too terrifying. Peak human god realm? Qin Nan immediately came to a realization after taking a glance. It was most likely that after the Kanglan continent recovered and grew stronger, its cultivation had only reached the peak martial god realm. It was still not enough to ascend. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. At that instant, 3 enormous ancient boats appeared beside Small Worm with various glows. On the bows of the ancient boats stood several figures, each with a powerful aura. The difference between them and Little Worm was not huge. The Master of the 9 Words Ancient Sea is here. The Master of the Lost Herb Garden, the Master of the Tao Origin Heavenly Mountain, and the Master of the Battle Tribe are here too. That's Martial God Ao Tsangtian, Martial God Xianyu, and the Skeleton Human God. Almost half of the geniuses and experts from Senior Qin Nan's era are here. Many of the disciples and cultivators were excited. Even Xiao Ling Changlo and Chongqing reacted the same way. Qin Nan stared at the unfamiliar yet familiar faces with a blank expression. It was as if he had just experienced the events of the past yesterday. Qin Nan, did you see that? That's the Master of the 9 Words Ancient Sea, Senior Gong Yang. I heard that when the evil shrine invaded, he went into the palace alone. Even the evil god was in awe of him. He did not dare to trouble him. I heard that even the 5th-ranked expert of the Sacred Emperor continent could not do anything to Senior Gong Yang. Xiao Ling Er's eyes flickered. Qin Nan chuckled. Speaking of which, his father was not here. Long Hu and Sima Kong were nowhere to be seen too. Summon the heavenly beast. A martial god realm expert of the god-beast Forbidden Ground yelled. Immediately after, 2 15-meter-tall demon dogs with shiny fur and astonishing auras slowly stepped out from 2 different parts of the void. Each of them was biting a shining chain in their mouth. They pulled out a domineering statue that was over 100 zhang tall and holding a saber. They arrived above the 3 dojos. Qin Nan was startled. The heavenly beasts were clearly the 2 hounds he had met in the past. The statue was none other than himself. Unlike the other statues, it was made of countless G.O.D. rocks and some ancient materials. It was equivalent to a human god weapon. "Everyone, rise!" the martial god realm expert yelled. At that instant, apart from the people on the 3 ancient boats, every cultivator on the dojos, regardless of their status, cultivation of the martial god realm or the martial progenitor realm, rose to their feet. "You should get up too. This is the only statue of Senior Qin Nan. If you're lucky, you might trigger the statue and receive the shocking succession." Xiao Ling-er's eyes flickered with excitement. She urged Qin Nan as she rose to her feet. Qin Nan wore a helpless expression. He had no choice but to rise to his feet. "Bow and greet him!" The martial god realm expert's voice echoed in the surroundings. The cultivators straightened their faces and bowed to the statue. Qin Nan's lips twisted upon seeing this. He did not expect Small Worm, Gong Yang, and the others would come up with such a ridiculous idea. They even asked the cultivators to bow to his statue. "What are you doing? Why aren't you bowing?" Xiao Ling-er asked when she noticed Qin Nan's reaction. Qin Nan let out a cough and rubbed his nose. Even though he thought it was quite interesting to observe the proceedings of the meeting while keeping a low profile, but he couldn't possibly ask him to bow to his statue, right? How ridiculous was that? "Qin Nan, what are you doing? Hurry up and bow. If you don't, you're being disrespectful to Senior Qin Nan. That's a serious offense." Chapter 1955. Giving a great gift. Qin Nan, now is not the time for you to be fooling around, hurry up and bow. Chong Lu and Chong Qing also saw this scene from the corner of their eyes. They were given a great fright and immediately transmitted their voice to Qin Nan. In the Kanglan continent, even though being disrespectful to Senior Qin Nan was not a crime punishable by death, it did not matter if the person was a martial monarch, a martial god, or someone stronger. Besides, it was such a grand occasion. "That won't be necessary," Qin Nan said while shaking his head. His voice wasn't loud, but it was exceptionally clear amidst the solemn silence. Most of the cultivators on the 3rd dojo heard him clearly. At that instant, the experts and geniuses immediately scanned Qin Nan's figure with their divine sense. Their eyes turned cold as they recalled the words that Qin Nan had just uttered. This person actually dared to be so bold. Xiao Linger, Chong Lu, and Chong Qing immediately wore pale faces. They did not expect Qin Nan, who had achieved the martial monarch realm, would dare to do such a thing. This time, it was over. Even the 3 of them would not be able to escape being punished. "Don't worry, it's fine." Qin Nan knew they were only doing it out of kindness, thus he comforted them. However, the eyes of the experts and geniuses on the dojo turned even colder when they heard the words. Xiao Linger, Chong Lu, and Chong Qing shuddered. "How dare you say it's fine when you disrespected Senior Qin Nan and didn't bow to him? How disrespectful was that? How bold!" The 2 heavenly beasts on the left and right uttered a ferocious roar, which exploded between the heavens and earth like claps of thunder. "Who are you? How dare you disrespect Senior Qin Nan and not bow to him, and utter such disrespectful words?" A strong murderous aura surged in all directions. "What? Who dares to do that?" The experts and geniuses on the other 2 dojos were startled by the words. Many of their eyes flickered with anger. In addition to it, Gong Yang, the master of the Tao Origin Heavenly Mountain, and the others on the 3 ancient vessels heard the commotion too. However, they only frowned slightly and did not pay much attention to it. With the cultivation level of the left and right heavenly beasts, it was more than enough to solve this problem. Qin Nan let out a faint smile. He was not bothered by the countless divine senses. However, there was a hint of disdain in his eyes as he looked at the 2 heavenly beasts. Even though his appearance had already grown up, his hair color had changed, his aura had changed, becoming a bit different from before. These 2 dogs had still followed him for a long time. Now, she actually couldn't recognize him. "Looks like I'll have to loosen their muscles and bones later to help them recall. You are courting death." The left and right heavenly beasts had never expected that this bold cultivator would dare to look at them with such a gaze. Immediately, they felt ashamed and angry, and let out a fierce roar. Wisps of godly glow gathered on their claws as they swung them at Chin Nan. Chin Nan did not seem to be bothered. He raised his head and looked into the sky. Whoosh! Suddenly, a bright black light burst out from the void that he was staring at. It attacked the heavenly beasts on his left and right at an astonishing speed. The eyes of the two heavenly beasts widened. They quickly backed away and defended themselves. Who's there? On the three ancient vessels, Small Worm, Gong Yang, the master of the Tao Origin Heavenly Mountain, and the rest of the experts immediately unleashed their auras when they were aware of the situation. Haha, well done. The real god of Kanglan is our master, evil god. Why are you bowing to this Chin Nan? A loud laugh reverberated in the air. Then, an illusory figure of an evil figure appeared from within. The people of the evil shrine are here? The experts and geniuses on the three dojos were startled. They immediately forgot about the bold cultivator. Small Worm harumphed coldly and said, "The evil shrine is pretty bold indeed, daring to intrude into my god-beast forbidden ground on your own?" The illusionary figure brought his fists together and said smilingly, "Master Dragon God is famous in the secondary lower realm. Why would we dare to disturb him when he is about to ascend to the 9 heavens? I'm only here to deliver a congratulatory gift to Lord Dragon God." After saying that, he swung his sleeves, and 13 heads with faces covered in blood and filled with unwillingness floated in the air. Small Worm's eyes widened. The faces of Gong Yang, the master of the Tao Origin Heavenly Mountain, and the others sank. That's Martial God Shao Qin. Martial God condensing Martial God. That's Martial God condensing Martial God. The experts and geniuses on the three dojos were astounded when they saw the heads on the dojos. The 13 heads belonged to 13 Martial God realm experts. On top of that, they were peak martial gods. Many of them were confused when they did not see the martial gods around. To their surprise, they were killed by the people of the evil shrine. Many people's eyes were engulfed in flames of fury. The evil shrine had killed 13 martial gods, yet they purposely tossed the heads to them at a time like this. They were obviously trampling on their dignity. The evil shrine wishes Master Dragon God a success in his ascension to the 9 heavens immortal realm. The evil figure was unaware of the crowd's anger. He said with a smile, "Master of the Ocean is the only one left." The 2 strongest cultivators in the Kanglan continent were the Dragon God and Gong Yang. Even though there were still some with outstanding cultivation, they were nowhere to be found. It had been a long time since they showed up in Kanglan continent. Die! Small Worm's eyes flickered coldly. He tore the evil figure into pieces with his enormous dragon claws. "Pass down my order, give them a proper burial," Small Worm said in a low voice. Several figures immediately flew over from the island of Beast God and collected the 13 bloody heads. Bang! 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 At the same time, the countless lightning bolts at the edge of the sky seemed to have been stimulated by something as they struck down one after another. Various rare phenomena took place. A destructive aura surged in all directions. Initially, Small Worm still needed an hour to complete the ritual before it was ready to face the tribulation of ascension, but the appearance of the evil figure had somehow triggered it. "Dragon God, don't worry about the tribulation and ascend to the 9 heavens. Don't worry, as long as I'm here, the evil shrine will never be able to conquer the Kanglan continent," Gong Yang said in a deep voice. The others nodded at Small Worm too. "Master of the Ocean, I'll leave it to you." Small Worm took a deep breath before it began to face the tribulation of ascension. However, no one noticed the grumbling look in its eyes. It was also clenching its teeth. Once it ascended to the 9 heavens, it would surely find that asshole Chin Nan and ask him why he never came back to visit the Kanglan continent after so many years. Chapter 1956. The tribulation weaved through the crowd. Bang! The tribulation rumbled like a thunderstorm. The enormous dragon body displayed unparalleled power as it collided with the dragon's attack. Gong Yang, the master of the Tao Origin Heavenly Mountain, the skeleton martial god, and the rest of the experts on the three ancient vessels were watching the scene. Following the changes to the rules of the Kanglan continent, the tribulation of ascension was a lot scarier than before, with a higher chance of failure. They took the opportunity to observe the tribulation. They might be able to learn something from it, and if Small Worm was in danger, they would be able to lend him a hand. The experts on the three dojos were doing the same, observing the calamity. Why are you being so disrespectful to Senior Qin Nan? Are you from the evil shrine? At that instant, Lei Huan, who was ranked 9th on the heaven ranking, snapped at Qin Nan with a sharp gaze as a sudden thought crossed his mind. Qin Nan was left speechless. The others had yet to realize it, yet Long Hu's son had already set his eyes on him. Why would someone from the evil shrine dare to stand here in broad daylight? Even the hall leader wouldn't dare to do so. Qin Nan rubbed his nose. The kid was quick to react, but his intelligence was a little lacking, just like his father. Lei Huan was startled. The man did have a point. I don't care who you are, you disrespected Senior Qin Nan and disrespected his manners. According to the rules, we will arrest you right here. An expert snapped coldly as he collected his thoughts. That's right, I'm interested to see what you're made of too. You even said that the geniuses in the top 10 of the heaven ranking don't have a solid foundation. Xiaolingers Master rose to her feet and unleashed a formidable aura. Master, you've misunderstood, this man has always thought of himself as... Xiaolinger hastily said. She also felt that Qin Nan was in the wrong and deserved to be punished. However, she didn't think about anything at the moment. She just instinctively stood up and spoke for Qin Nan. However, no one listened to her. Shua. 10 experts began to attack Qin Nan. Among them were 7 martial monarchs and 3 martial gods. Their monarch force and god force circulated rapidly as they executed one ancient martial art after another. Qin Nan was slightly dazed. Unknowingly, he had long forgotten the many ancient martial arts that he had cultivated in the past. As the ancient martial arts approached, Qin Nan collected his thoughts and wore a calm smile. In the nick of time, he dodged the ancient martial arts with a flicker. This person's cultivation is not simple. Let's attack together. The eyes of the 10 experts instantly turned cold as they shouted loudly. The rest of the cultivators on the dojo collected their thoughts. They unleashed powerful auras as they performed a series of hand seals. Not only them, but the geniuses in the top 10 of the heaven roll also made their moves, their wills bursting forth. This was especially so for Lei Huan, whose true form appeared. He opened his dragon mouth and roared majestically at the sky. Seriously, this Long Hu, why is his foundation so weak if I didn't teach him a lesson? Qin Nan rolled his eyes. He dodged the ancient martial arts with a flicker and landed in front of Lei Huan. He flicked his finger at the beast's forehead. Bang! Lei Huan's enormous figure slammed heavily into the distance like an arrow being fired. It let out a series of cries. Even though the flick did not inflict any damage to it, for some reason, it felt more painful than being beaten up by a bunch of experts when it was trying to peek at a female disciple cleaning herself. How bold of you, you dare to resist! The left heavenly beast and the right heavenly beast uttered thunderous roars at the same time. They dashed toward Qin Nan at a speed faster than the rest of the crowd. Countless heavenly fortune runes intertwined with their claws as they slapped at Qin Nan. Qin Nan harumphed. He arrived behind the beasts with a flicker and lashed out with a kick. The left and right heavenly beasts cried out in agony as their figures slammed heavily into the distance. They rolled on the ground miserably due to the tremendous pain. How dare they injure Senior Qin Nan's heavenly beasts? More experts on the dojo were infuriated. Rising Sun Saber Art. utterance of law, 6 runes true words. Previously they were still holding back, but now they were going all out. Streams of powerful saber intents and ancient words were fired at Qin Nan with great power, covering the heavens and earth. If it were any other great emperor, they wouldn't be able to withstand so many killer moves. He's done for. Xiaoling Changlu and Chongqing collected their thoughts. Their eyes dimmed seeing this. Either way, they were acquaintances after all. However, in the next moment, the 3 of them, as well as the many experts and geniuses on the heaven ranking, saw an extremely shocking scene. However, Qin Nan's expression remained the same, and he did not execute any ancient martial art either. He continued to walk toward the murderous aura. Each of the murderous intents dissipated on their own when they were about to land on him, as if Qin Nan was protected by a supreme god. No force was able to harm him. Who exactly is he? The experts, geniuses, and the cultivators on the dojo were astounded. They could not believe their eyes. Even a peak martial god would not be able to do such a thing. Could it be that the man had achieved the human god realm? Cultivator, I don't care which faction you're from, or what cultivation you have, this is not the place for you to act recklessly. The battle on the dojo finally startled the experts on the 3 ancient vessels. The person speaking was Ao Tsangtian, who was only below Ocean Master Gong Yang and Dragon God Small Worm in the Kanglan continent. Over the past few decades, he had achieved the 5th-layer human god realm. He was also the new god of the god-beast Forbidden Ground. Ao Tsangtian stood at the front of the boat and stared at Qin Nan. Even though the man before him felt familiar, he did not overthink it, especially when the heads of the 13 martial gods had left him in a bad mood. Bang! Ao Tsangtian made his move. A giant purple-golden dragon claw slapped at Qin Nan with a destructive force. Have I changed that much? Why can't I recognize myself now? Qin Nan fell into deep thought. As for the dragon claw, it was as if he did not see it at all. He simply let it approach him and slapped at him. A thunderous blast soon took place, as strong gusts surged in all directions. The eyes of Ao Tsangtian, the experts, and the geniuses widened. It was as if the dragon claw had collided with a supreme mountain, shattering into pieces all over the sky. Chapter 1957. A calamity? How is this possible? Ao Tsangtian's heart took a great blow. It should be known that even the Lord Dragon God would not be unscathed after taking a blow from him without using any means. He's so powerful. Xiaolinger Changlu and Chongqing were stunned. They initially thought Qin Nan was only a martial monarch who was cultivating in seclusion. Ao Tsangtian, we are here to lend you a hand. The master of the Tao Origin Heavenly Mountain, the skeleton martial god, the patriarch of the Battle Tribe, the patriarch of the Tianji tribe, the master of the Lost Herb Garden, and the rest of the experts were startled. However, with a single glance, they were all slightly stunned. Why did the young man look so familiar? What a surprise, an expert of your level has come to our Kanglan continent. May I know why you're here? A gentle voice echoed across the place. It was none other than the current master of the 9 words Ancient Sea, Gong Yang, whose name was well known across the entire secondary lower realm. However, when Gong Yang saw Qin Nan, his figure shuddered as an indescribable feeling rose in his heart. You're... Gong Yang was astounded. The young man was very similar to the man, but they were very different too. Could it be that the man already had a child before he came to the 9 heavens immortal realm? Why didn't his uncle mention it before? Bang! At this moment, an earth-shattering explosion rang out. Countless lightning bolts in the sky gathered together and turned into countless peerless swords. They unleashed rainbow-like sword intents and slashed at Little Worm. The small worm uttered a roar into the sky. Its purple glow soared into the sky as its battle intent soared into the sky. However, the peerless swords were simply too powerful. In just half a breath's time, its scales were covered in wounds. Dragon blood splattered everywhere, leaving it in a miserable state. Crap, something is happening to the Ascension Tribulation. Gong Yang, the master of the Tao Origin Heavenly Mountain, and the rest of the experts were startled. They had no time to worry about Qin Nan. Their bodies emitted magnificent glows as they performed hand seals. The small worm instantly received a great boost, and its aura rose steadily. It began to shatter the unparalleled swords one after another, gaining the upper hand. Gong Yang, the master of the Tao Origin Heavenly Mountain, and the rest of the experts let out relieved sighs. I can't let you enter the 9 heavens now. Qin Nan's indifferent voice rang out. He bent his finger slightly. He's not good. Gong Yang, the master of the Tao Origin Heavenly Mountain, and the rest of the experts were startled at first, before their expressions changed tremendously as they recalled something. However, they were too late. Qin Nan had already flicked his finger. Rumble. Gong Yang and the rest of the experts and geniuses on the 3 dojos felt a destructive force colliding with the peerless swords and the stormy clouds like an ancient tide. Everything immediately quieted down. Everything above Little Worm was instantly destroyed. The rift within a few 100,000 li was turned into a chaotic mess. Even the rules of cultivation were no longer present in it. Thud! The small worm immediately suffered a great blow. It spat out a mouthful of dragon blood as its aura weakened tremendously. The Ascension Tribulation was destroyed? Every cultivator present was dumbfounded. It was common knowledge that if one's tribulation was forcibly destroyed by someone during the tribulation, then the person undergoing the tribulation would have their cultivation greatly reduced. It would be akin to being seriously injured. Especially the Ascension Tribulation, if it was destroyed with brute force, it was highly possible that the person would never be able to trigger the tribulation again. In other words, Senior Dragon God had no fate with the 9 heavens. You dare to do such a thing, die. Aot Songtian collected his thoughts. He was enraged as he transformed into his true form. Each of his scales emitted a brilliant glow as he fired a series of ancient martial arts at Qin Nan. Qin Nan remained still with a calm expression. How dare he? More experts collected their thoughts. Their gazes toward Qin Nan were filled with anger. How is this possible? How is this possible? Shaoling Changlo and Chongqing were in a complete mess. They never thought a cultivator whom they had befriended by chance, whom they treated as a friend, would turn out to be here to harm Senior Dragon God. I'm going to kill you! The most furious one was the small worm. It let out a roar and charged at Qin Nan at a shocking pace, ignoring its injuries. Crap! Gong Yang, the master of the Tao Origin Heavenly Mountain, and the rest of the experts collected their thoughts. The mysterious cultivator had shattered Small Worm's Ascension Tribulation with a single attack. It was not something an ordinary cultivator could do. Small Worm was currently suffering from serious injuries. It was no different than committing suicide by charging at the cultivator. Qin Nan flicked his finger and knocked Small Worm a few steps back. He snapped, "It's only been a few years since we last met, and you're already trying to kill me as soon as we meet?" Small Worm was even more furious. "I don't care who you are, you." Qin Nan shook his head. His right arm exploded and transformed into the heaven-shattering saber floating in the air. That saber, the furious Aot Songtian, Gong Yang, the master of the Tao Origin Heavenly Mountain, the patriarch of the battle tribe, and the rest of the experts began to tremble. It was the saber, the unstoppable saber that countless martial monarchs and martial gods were in awe of. Your. Small Worm's anger dissipated instantly. He looked like he had just seen a ghost. The cultivators on the 3 dojos were utterly confused. Why did the experts suddenly stop when they saw the saber? The saber, Lei Huan, who was knocked flying, took a closer look at the saber. He blurted out as a sudden thought crossed his mind, "Master once showed me a drawing. It's the legendary heaven-shattering saber, the strongest artifact of the Kanglan continent. The cultivators were astounded hearing the words. The strongest artifact of the Kanglan continent had shown up? But wasn't the heaven-shattering saber the senior's saber? Why would it be in the young man's hands? Could it be? Qin Nan looked at Smallworm and said, I only shattered your ascension tribulation because it's not easy to reunite with you. You don't have to leave so soon. But don't you worry, I'll help you recover your cultivation. I'll ask the primordial rules of the Kanglan continent to prepare a special ascension tribulation for you. The little bug stared blankly at the young man in front of him, who was both unfamiliar and familiar at the same time. It felt that all of this was a little unreal, and it couldn't help but ask, Are you really? Qin Nan wore a smile on his calm face. Chapter 1958. I'll be back soon. The wind stopped, the clouds stopped, and all was quiet. The words immediately filled the hearts of Smallworm, Gong Yang, the master of the Tao Origin Heavenly Mountain, and the others with great joy. This guy, he really came back. Senior Qin Nan? The experts, geniuses, and cultivators on the 3 dojos were dumbfounded. They felt like they were dreaming. The peerless legend of the Kanglan continent had returned? At this moment, many experts finally understood. He didn't salute because he was Qin Nan. He couldn't salute his own statue. It was reasonable for him to say that the top 10 on the heaven leaderboard did not have a strong foundation. Compared to the strongest martial monarch of all times and the strongest martial god of all times, even the geniuses in the secondary lower realm had a weaker foundation, let alone these geniuses. Is he really Senior Qin Nan? The most confused ones were none other than Xiaoling, Chonglu, and Chongqing. All this time, they had only regarded Qin Nan as a lunatic who did not know the immensity of heaven and earth. Do you believe me now? Qin Nan looked at the 3 of them and smiled faintly. Senior Qin Nan, Xiaolinger, Chonglu, and Chongqing started stuttering. Especially when they recalled the various words they'd said earlier, their faces burned while their minds were in chaos. It's nothing. If it were me, I wouldn't believe it either. However, I have to thank you for bringing me to the God-Beast Forbidden Ground. Take good care of these 3 immortal arts. Qin Nan flicked his finger, and the 3 immortal lights entered his body. He rather admired the 3 of them. Immortal technique? The left and right heavenly beasts stared blankly. Even though the experts of the 9 heavens immortal realm kept coming to the secondary lower realm, they rarely used their immortal art. Therefore, every single immortal technique was extremely expensive and difficult to come by. Master, it's us, we are the heavenly fortune hounds. The 2 beasts cried out and sprinted toward Qin Nan. Stand aside and reflect on yourself. Qin Nan tapped the air with his finger. The left and right heavenly beasts immediately fell to the ground and groaned. Senior Qin Nan, my master said that if I'm fated to meet you, I should tell you the words Longhu Mountain Range, and you would surely give me a powerful succession. Lei Huan collected his thoughts. Qin Nan's immortal technique. However, he was Xiao Studio, did not forget he was immortal arts immortal. Ha ha! Longhu Jiang Fan is Studio that guy? Little Chong, Gong Yang, the master of the Tao Origin Heavenly Mountain, and the others burst out laughing. Qin Nan's lips twisted slightly. He said, Where is your master now? Lei Huan scratched his head and said, I don't know either. I think he said he's going to the Sacred Emperor continent to team up with Senior Sima to rob the Sacred Emperor and sleep with her daughter. In the Sacred Emperor continent, those who were given the title of Sacred Emperor were the strongest experts. These 2 fellows really don't change. Qin Nan rolled his eyes and said, Take this immortal art. He did not have many immortal arts, but he had practiced many arts of Tao seeking. He had imparted a wisp of their will to them. If they could master it, the power of the immortal arts would not be any weaker than the immortal art. I'm very happy to be able to see all of you after returning this time. I've inserted the 10 successions into the statue. Regardless of your background and cultivation, you can come and comprehend them. Even if you don't have the talent, you can still acquire them with a firm will. Qin Nan flicked his finger, firing 10 blinding rays into the statue, causing its aura to skyrocket, resulting in a magnificent sight. Of course, you don't have to bow to my statue, and don't call me the god of Kanglan. I'm just a cultivator of the Kanglan continent. Qin Nan added. The entire dojo was still in dead silence. A few moments later, a great uproar broke out among the crowd. The experts, geniuses, and ordinary cultivators were extremely excited. It had been a few decades since Senior Qin Nan had ascended. With Senior Qin Nan's talent, he must have achieved the legendary human immortal realm. How could 10 successions from a human immortal be ordinary? Damn kid, you're really generous. You've given me 4 immortal arts and 10 successions. No way, you've just ruined my tribulation. You must compensate me. Small Worm rubbed his claws and said. Sure. Qin Nan nodded with a smile. Qin Nan, Gong Yang, the master of the Tao Origin Heavenly Mountain, and the rest of the experts approached Qin Nan. Brother Yang. Senior. Qin Nan brought his fists together and greeted. Regardless of his current cultivation, his elder brother, his senior, was still his elder brother, his senior. He had to greet them when he saw them. Gong Yang, the master of the Tao Origin Heavenly Mountain, and the rest of the experts were dumbfounded. He had not changed at all. He was still the same as before. Qin Nan raised his head and glanced at the ancient boat. Another person was standing at the front of the boat. It was the master of the Lost Herb Garden. He hesitated when he sensed Qin Nan's gaze. He was overjoyed to see Qin Nan again, but he still could not forget what had happened. Senior, I've fulfilled my promise. The princess has been reincarnated. She is now cultivating under an expert. I'll bring her back when the time is right. Qin Nan said sternly. Are you serious? The master of the garden trembled. His eyes reddened when he saw Qin Nan nodding his head. He was struggling to express his emotions. Master, this guy is finally back. Why don't we set up a feast so he can tell us everything that happened in the 9 heavens immortal realm? What do you think? Gong Yang immediately said when he saw this. Sure. The master of the garden nodded. He was no longer an authority of the Kanglan continent, but an old senior instead. However, a figure flew toward the island of the god beast at a rapid pace and yelled, Senior Dragon God, something bad has happened. The evil shrine has just sent their troops to the sky-scorching ancient kingdom. The atmosphere intensified. Small Worm frowned as his murderous aura rose. How impressive of the evil shrine, it seems like they have already planned this beforehand. They are planning to attack me while I'm ascending. Gong Yang straightened his face and said, I'll head to the sky-scorching ancient kingdom now and settle the situation there. However, I believe the evil shrine still has something up their sleeve. Dragon God, you should be prepared. Small Worm nodded and said, That's right then. Before he could finish, Qin Nan interrupted, That won't be necessary. Small Worm, Gong Yang, the master of the Tao Origin Heavenly Mountain, and the others were startled, before they quickly recalled something. Small Worm, are you willing to give me a ride? Qin Nan asked with a calm smile. Damn it, you're an ascended person, why haven't you changed that bad habit of yours? Fine, just this once. Small Worm clenched his teeth and waved his hand helplessly. The scales on his body emitted a tremendous purple glow as his battle intent surged in all directions. Qin Nan landed on the dragon's head with a kick. His blue hair drifted to the wind. Brother Yang, it's rare that I'm back. We should have a proper gathering. You can continue with the feast. Chapter 1959. Turning into ashes in the blink of an eye, small worm uttered a roar and disappeared into the rift. Gong Yang, the master of the Tao Origin Heavenly Mountain, and the rest of the experts immediately gave out orders to hold a feast. The experts, geniuses, and cultivators on the 3 dojos were dumbfounded. If they were not mistaken, was Senior Qin Nan planning to eliminate the evil shrine on his own? Furthermore, why was his tone so nonchalant? They knew Senior Qin Nan must have achieved an unbelievable level, but the rules of the Kanglan continent limited his strength to the peak human god realm. On top of that, the evil shrine was from the 9 heavens too. It had been expanding rapidly over the years, and had many human god realm experts under its command. Even the current master of the ocean, Gong Yang, even though the evil shrine's master could not do anything to him when he broke into the evil shrine on his own, he would not be able to do the same now. Senior Qin Nan. Was he really going to be fine? A few hundred breaths later, the Kanglan continent, the North Continent. The enormous battle dragon tore through the clouds. Qin Nan stood on the dragon's head and calmly glanced at the enormous black cities in front of him, as well as the magnificent evil aura. The entire North Continent had fallen into the enemy's hands. Holy crap, it's only been a month, and the evil shrine has already finished constructing the 12 evil cities. They can now mobilize the power of the entire North Continent to fend off the enemies. Small Worm was startled. Qin Nan, let's ask Gong Yang and the others too. Ugh, I'm not looking down on you, but you can only use your peak human god realm cultivation. It's too risky for you to go there. Qin Nan waved his hand and said, Don't worry, I know what I'm doing. Small Worm rolled his eyes. His heart began to race. Following this guy was as exciting as always. Meanwhile, at the center of the North Continent, an ancient palace over 10,000 zhang tall with a magnificent aura was floating in the air. It was emitting an evil glow. The palace was the evil shrine. Its true form was an ancient Tao weapon of the 9 heavens, immortal realm. Even the 12 evil cities were incomparable to it. Hall Master, the dragon god of the god-beast Forbidden Ground, has failed to overcome his tribulation. He's currently heading here with a cultivator with blue-red hair. A figure hurriedly flew into the hall and shouted loudly. Ha! I actually failed. A man and a dragon? Do you want to die? The human gods in the hall burst out laughing with disdainful looks. At the head of the table, a young man with eyes as black as ink, skin that was strangely pale, wore a purple cloak that revealed his chest that was full of scars, and had 3 ancient scimitars of different sizes hanging from his waist. He frowned. He crushed the cup of blood in his hand. He was the hall master of the evil shrine, Yunqing. Is that green red-haired cultivator a man or a woman? Yunqing asked coldly. It's a young cultivator. According to our sources, he should be the current god of Kanglan, Qin Nan. The figure hurriedly replied. Qin Nan? He's back? Many human god realm experts were astounded. Oh, it's him. Yunqing immediately let out a relieved sigh. He was most worried that Empress Feiyue would return at this time. As a heaven immortal, how could he not know how terrifying Empress Feiyue was? As for Qin Nan, he did hear about him when he returned to the secondary lower realm from the 9 heavens, immortal realm. Qin Nan was once the strongest immortal. His talents were on par with Empress Feiyue, yet his Tao foundation had been destroyed. Why would a person whose Tao foundation was destroyed be scared of him? He must have returned because he was after the origin force just like him. This Qin Nan is pretty full of himself. He dares to come with the dragon god. If that's the case, come with me. We'll show them the power of the 12 evil cities. Yunqing twisted his lips. He picked up another cup of blood wine. Drinking wine was the most suitable way to kill someone. Hall leaders might shake the heavens and earth. The human gods bowed in unison. They were aware that Qin Nan's Tao foundation had been destroyed. Afterwards, Yi Yunxing led a large group of experts into the air. A few moments later, a dragon and an insect appeared at the end of their line of sight. Tisk, just in time. Yi Yunxing took a sip of the wine and performed an ancient seal with a single hand. Bang bang bang. In an instant, a total of 12 earth-shattering explosions rang out. He could only see 12 enormous ancient cities rising into the sky like prehistoric beasts, emitting evil glows. In addition to it, 12 wisps of formidable force burst out of the spacious northern continent and entered the ancient cities. Their formidable auras skyrocketed. Countless rare phenomena took place one after another in the rift. The rules of the heavens and earth within a few 100,000 li were disrupted. The beasts, cultivators, and human gods of the evil path were startled. They let out a series of roars that soared into the sky. Holy crap! Qin Nan, the 12 evil cities are too powerful. Peak human gods are no match for them. Let's withdraw first. Small Worm felt his scalp turning numb. He blurted out. Before he could finish, Qin Nan raised his right hand and flicked his finger. Bang! A terrifying explosion echoed in the northern continent. The demon beasts, cultivators, human gods, and Yi Yunxing who was drinking were all dumbfounded by the explosion. Following it, they witnessed an astounding sight. The sky and earth in front of them had turned into chaos. The 12 incomparably powerful evil cities were no more. Not a single trace of them remained. Holy crap! Small Worm cursed. The Saint of Misfortune and the rest of the experts had no words to describe their astonishment. Didn't Qin Nan's Tao Foundation get destroyed? He had only unleashed his peak human god realm cultivation. How did he destroy the 12 evil cities with a single flick? Return to the palace. However, as a heaven immortal, the Saint of Misfortune had experienced a lot. He immediately collected his thoughts and let out a roar. Wisps of black flames burst out of his body and encapsulated the human gods nearby. He turned into a ray of light and flew back into the palace. You're pretty quick, Qin Nan said calmly. He went up to the evil shrine with a kick and slowly landed on the ground. A shocking explosion took place when his foot landed on the ground. The entire hall seemed to be suppressed by the entire world, and it was unable to bear the burden and actually shattered layer by layer. In less than a breath of time, it had completely shattered into black light that filled the sky, and not a trace of it remained. The Saint of Misfortune and the rest of the human gods stared at Qin Nan with blank faces. What just happened? Chapter 1960. At the banquet. Impossible. Your Tao Foundation has already been destroyed. Your cultivation is only at the peak human god realm. How did you do it? Yunxing yelled. He had put in a lot of effort to build the 12 evil cities and the evil shrine, yet the man had destroyed them so easily. How could he possibly accept it? Qin Nan did not speak. Even though he had suppressed his cultivation to the peak human god realm, even an earth god or heaven god would not be able to do anything to him. That being said, it was not Yi Yunxing's fault. If Yi Yunxing knew Qin Nan's Tao Foundation had recovered and he had achieved the greater success stage of the peerless ruler realm, he would not have reacted the same way. Qin Nan, you must have used some other trick. I won't accept it. If you have the guts, let me. Yi Yunxing continued to yell. Qin Nan could not be bothered to listen to his nonsense. He executed a terrifying saber intent and shattered Yi Yunxing into pieces. The evil aura scattered across the place. Whoosh! Right at this moment, a green illusory flame shot out from the evil qi at an extremely fast speed and disappeared into the sky. Holy crap, that's not his real body. Small Worm's eyes widened. Qin Nan stared at him with an indifferent expression. After a breath of time, the green illusory flame had completely flown out of this world and vanished. Qin Nan, why didn't you do anything just then? That green flame was Yi Yunxing's soul. Small Worm snapped after collecting his thoughts. Great, you let his soul escape. Yunxing will surely return to the sacred Emperor continent to rest and recuperate. Once you leave the Kanglan continent, he will surely make a comeback. Qin Nan said with a calm smile, Don't worry, I have my own plans. How could he not tell it was not Yunxing's real body with his eye technique? The green flame was Yunxing's soul? He did not kill Yunxing because he had accepted a quest in the 24th sacred area of the heavens and earth. If Yunxing was dead, he might have to return to the 9 heavens immortal realm. How long had he been back? How could he be in such a hurry to leave? Besides, it did not matter if Yunxing returned to the sacred Emperor continent. He could take the opportunity to visit Longhu and Sima Kong. Organize the elders and disciples of the evil fiend hall. Go to the demon god forbidden grounds and confess your sins. Let me give you a word of advice. It's best if you don't think of using other methods to escape. Qin Nan glanced at the others, flicked out a wisp of saber intent, and returned to the small worm. Although Small Worm kept complaining, it still carried Qin Nan away. The human gods shuddered when they saw the saber intent that resembled a human. Their faces turned ashen. In just a few dozen breaths of time, the grand plan that they had been planning for many years had been destroyed. Not long after, in the demon god forbidden grounds. On the boundless surface of the sea, numerous sea beasts rushed up and down, creating countless splashes. On the islands, god forces were activated, resulting in various rare phenomena. The elder-level existences of the god-beast forbidden ground were scattered across the place. They arranged for the cultivators, geniuses, and experts of various factions to take their seats. The tables were filled with various wines and delicacies. The preparations for the feast were almost done. Roar! At that instant, the cry of a dragon echoed in all directions. The experts, cultivators, and geniuses immediately looked in the direction of the cry. Qin Nan, you two are the only ones left, hurry up! Gong Yang burst out laughing. Small Worm immediately transformed into his human form and sat down with Qin Nan. Ao Tsangtian declared the start of the feast. Qin Nan, Gong Yang, Small Worm, the master of the Tao Origin Heavenly Mountain, and the rest of the crowd clinked their cups and chatted with one another. It has only been half the period of an incense stick since Senior Qin Nan and Senior Dragon God went there. Indeed, look at the ice intent in the ice god wine, it hasn't dissipated yet. I wonder how the evil shrine is doing now. Isn't that obvious? With Senior Qin Nan's cultivation and Senior Dragon God's help, they must have gone to the evil shrine and killed many human god realm experts. That's right. If Senior Qin Nan, Senior Dragon God, and Senior Ocean Master work together, the evil shrine will surely suffer great losses. The cultivators, geniuses, and experts of various factions discussed among one another. They were not disappointed by the outcome. After all, there was no way Senior Qin Nan would be able to destroy the evil shrine with only the Dragon God. The fact that Senior Qin Nan was able to return unharmed was enough to prove how powerful he was. The feast continued with a lively atmosphere. Qin Nan, Gong Yang, and the others reminisced about their past. Qin Nan also began to talk about the things he had experienced since he first came to the 9 heavens immortal realm. Half an hour was gone in the blink of an eye. Suddenly, the sky in the distance was covered in darkness. Tens of thousands of cultivators split into 10 groups and flew toward the god-beast forbidden ground like 10 dragons. The cultivators, geniuses, and experts were startled. It's the second hall master of the evil shrine, human god Tiansha. Look, it's the 3rd, 4th, and 5th hall masters of the evil shrine. What's going on? Why are the experts of the evil shrine all here? Are they trying to start a war now? Many cultivators were astounded. Some of the experts tensed and were ready to make their move. As for Gong Yang, the master of the Tao Origin Heavenly Mountain, and the rest of the experts, they simply watched the scene calmly. They had no idea what happened after Qin Nan and Small Worm went there, but they had absolute confidence in Qin Nan. Even though the scene was a little strange, since Qin Nan said he would eliminate the evil shrine, he would surely do it. It was just as Gong Yang, the master of the Tao Origin Heavenly Mountain, and the others thought. Following it, a shocking sight took place. The second hall master of the evil shrine, Tiansha, has brought all the cultivators of the second evil shrine here. Senior Qin Nan, Senior Dragon God, and Senior Master of the Ocean, please punish me. I have no complaints. The third hall master of the evil shrine, Luo Zhen, the fourth hall master of the evil shrine, Luo Zhen. Over the past few decades, the hall leaders who had stood at the peak of the Kanglan continent and caused the experts of various factions to be wary of them all dropped to their knees and lowered their heads. They no longer had their usual arrogance, as they behaved obediently. As for the elders and inner disciples behind them, they lowered their heads deeply, their bodies trembling in an undetectable manner. The cultivators, geniuses, and experts of various factions were dumbfounded beyond words. Their minds were greatly impacted. What was going on? Chapter 1961. Sacred Emperor Continent. The destruction of the evil shrine pushed the atmosphere of the banquet to its climax. This banquet lasted for a full 3 days before it came to an end. The whole Kanglan continent was startled when the news spread. Every cultivator was astounded. As the culprit behind the chaos, Qin Nan had reconstructed Small Worm's cultivation. He also taught Small Worm, Gong Yang, and the master of the Tao Origin Heavenly Mountain the arts of Tao seeking. After learning the arts of Tao seeking, it was extremely rare to find a human god that could pose a threat to them in the secondary lower realm. Even the cultivators from the 9 heavens immortal realm were no exception. Over the past few decades, Uncle's cultivation has improved to the martial ancestor realm. He has been traveling around the secondary lower realm. He should be in the sacred Emperor continent now. Gong Yang walked into a residence and said with a calm smile, "But don't you worry, I've sent someone to keep an eye on him. He's perfectly safe." Qin Nan nodded and said, "Thanks for your concern." Gong Yang waved his hand and asked, "Are you planning to go to the sacred Emperor continent?" Qin Nan said after a slight ponder, "I'm thinking of visiting the places I used to go. I'll visit them when I'm done with the primordial rules of the heavens and earth." "I'll go with you." Qin Nan went to places he was familiar with in the lower district, the eastern continent, and the middle continent to reminisce about the past. 8 days later, the primordial rules of the heavens and earth finally broke the silence. "Qin Nan, thank you for your help with the evil shrine. I've invited the primordial rules of the 5 continents. They have sent someone here today. Are you free to come?" Qin Nan murmured. A force of the heavens and earth landed on him and brought him to a different place. It was a quaint house. Even though it was not spacious, the residence was filled with the famous natural resources of the Kanglan continent that countless martial gods and even human gods would drool over. There was also a stone table in the courtyard that was condensed from the origin energy. 5 illusory figures with different radiances were sitting at the table. The auras of these figures were extremely strange. They did not have any cultivation base, but they were the primordial laws of heaven and earth of their respective continents. One of the blue figures invited Qin Nan with a gesture before transmitting his voice. "Qin Nan, the primordial rules of the sacred Emperor continent didn't come this time. They came from the central continent, the Wuyue continent." Qin Nan snapped, "What do you want me to do? Just say it." The blue figure let out a cough and said, "You might not know this, but the 5 continents in the secondary lower realm are split into 2 camps. The sacred Emperor continent is in charge of one of the camps, while the other 4 continents are in the other camp. The sacred Emperor continent wanted me to become their vassal state, but I rejected them. The other 4 continents also want me to become their vassal state, so I was thinking. At this point, it didn't continue. Qin Nan nodded. He brought his fists together at the 4 illusionary figures. The 4 illusionary figures glanced at him calmly. The primordial rules of heaven and earth of the Kanglan continent were able to learn about the happenings in the 9 heavens immortal realm through the things that Empress Feiyue left behind. However, they could only learn about the primordial rules of heaven and earth from the cultivators in the secondary lower realm. What they knew was similar to Yi Yunxing. Qin Nan was the strongest immortal. He had made a name for himself in the immortal realm, but his Tao foundation had been destroyed. They did know that Qin Nan had destroyed the 12 evil cities with a single finger, but they did not care too much about it. They were the primordial rules of heaven and earth of the 5 continents in the secondary lower realm. The primordial rules of heaven and earth of the Kanglan continent were not comparable to them. Besides, many cultivators from their continents had ascended to the 9 heavens immortal realm. Many outstanding geniuses had achieved the peerless ruler realm in the 9 heavens immortal realm and joined formidable factions. There's no need for us to waste our time here. Kanglan, if you don't join us, don't blame us for what's going to happen. The primordial rules of the central continent said coldly. Cultivator, the Kanglan continent will not become a subordinate of any faction. Similarly, the Kanglan continent will not invade other continents as long as no one dares to invade us. Qin Nan said. You're just a cultivator. What right do you have to make the decision for the Kanglan continent? The primordial rules of the other 3 continents glanced at him coldly and said, Kanglan, are you saying that Qin Nan is the real master of the Kanglan continent? The blue figure wore an awkward expression. Well, Qin Nan said with a calm smile, I'm not the master of the Kanglan continent. I'm just an ordinary cultivator in the Kanglan continent. However, I don't want the place where I was born to be involved in the conflict. Do you understand? What a joke! The primordial rules of the central continent slammed the table and said with a voice like an ancient sword being drawn out of its sheath. Even Empress Feiyue didn't interfere. You're just an ordinary cultivator. What right do you have to interfere with the conflict between the continents? That's right. Young man, don't be too full of yourself. The primordial rules of the other continents immediately unleashed their auras. Qin Nan said calmly, You're right, I don't have the right to interfere, but it does. His right arm exploded and transformed into the heaven-shattering saber with an icy saber intent. The eyes of the primordial rules of the central continent turned cold. Kanglan, is this your decision too? Are you rejecting our offer and declaring yourself our enemy? The cyan figure lowered his head and remained silent. Qin Nan, do you really think I don't know what you're capable of? Someone has already destroyed your Tao foundation. You're only a human immortal, or an earth immortal at most. The primordial rules of the central continent said, In our continent, many of the cultivators that have ascended to the 9 heavens immortal realm have achieved the peerless ruler realm. If you're going to break the rules and interfere with the conflict between the continents, I don't mind. Before it could finish, Qin Nan interrupted it with a wave of his hand. I've made myself clear. It's up to you what you want to do. However, there's one thing you must know. If you're going to harm Kanglan, I won't sit still and do nothing. Qin Nan rose to his feet and said with a calm smile, Besides, your intelligence is seriously lacking. It's been a long time since my Tao foundation was destroyed. You should at least send a 9 heavens supreme to threaten me now. Saying this, Qin Nan turned into a ray of light and flew out of the Kanglan continent. The primordial rules of the heavens and earth of the 4 continents were stunned. It took them quite some time to collect their thoughts. 9. Chapter 1962. Give your son some advice. After Qin Nan left, he sent a voice transmission to Gong Yang, and they set off together. There were more than 300 continents floating in the boundless darkness of the secondary lower realm. After Qin Nan shattered the South Heaven Gate, he had visited many continents with Qin Tian, but he had never been to the sacred Emperor continent. 6 hours later, Qin Nan and Gong Yang appeared in a nameless mountain range on the sacred Emperor continent. Qin Nan looked around and exclaimed, "The sacred Emperor continent is indeed the strongest of the 5 continents. Its origin force is incomparable to the origin force of the Kanglan continent and the other continents. It has reached a whole new level. For a continent, the stronger its origin energy, the more blessed paradises, natural treasures, and invisible fortunes it would have. The chances of experts and geniuses being born would also be greater." Qin Nan suddenly realized something. He frowned and said, "However, the origin force of this continent is divided into 13 parts. It's very scattered and incomplete." Gong Yang said, "That's right, because of that, many cultivators of the 9 heavens immortal realm have set their eyes on the sacred Emperor continent after coming to the secondary lower realm. As a result, the factions on this continent are intertwined with one another. Among these forces, there is another one that stands at the pinnacle. It's called the Taya Heaven Palace. It has 4 of the top 10 experts of the sacred Emperor continent, and it even has the Taya Sky Palace diagram. This diagram is formed from the smallest portion of the 13 origin energies." Qin Nan immediately realized that the Taya Heaven Palace pattern was similar to the Monarch ranking, God ranking, and South Heaven Gate in the past. It had developed its own consciousness and spirit before teaming up with other experts to devour the origin force. The only difference was that the rules of cultivation in the sacred Emperor continent were not altered. It was only slightly different from the rules of cultivation in the Kanglan continent. Yi Yunxing is the son of the previous patriarch of the Taya Heaven Palace. He went to the Kanglan continent to collect the origin force. It's likely that the Taya Heaven Palace is supporting him, Gong Yang said. He told Qin Nan all this just to let Qin Nan know what to do. He wasn't worried about Qin Nan at all. Qin Nan nodded, raised his head slightly, looked ahead, and said, "Brother Yang, is there a friend coming?" As soon as the words were spoken, a middle-aged man in a white robe with sharp eyebrows and a strong scholarly aura walked out from the rift with a smile. He brought his fists together and said, "I'm Xiao Yin. I've heard that Brother Gong is coming to the sacred Emperor continent, so I'm here to welcome you. I hope Mr. Qin Nan doesn't mind." Gong Yang transmitted his voice to Qin Nan. He's one of the 10 great experts of the sacred Emperor continent. He established the Yuelu Academy and recruited many disciples. He has always remained neutral and did not participate in the Battle of Origins. Uncle is a teacher in the Yuelu Academy. He specializes in enlightening children around 10 years old and leading them onto the path of martial cultivation. Qin Nan brought his fists together and said with a smile, "Brother Xiao, thank you for taking care of my father." Xiao Yin shook his head and switched the topic. "Brother Qin, are you here to take a look at the scenery, or are you going to see your father now?" "Let's go see my father." "All right, I'll bring you two there." Under Xiao Yan's lead, the 3 soon arrived at an ancient city. Unlike other cities, most of the palaces in the ancient city had been turned into academies. The dojos were filled with children around the age of 10. They were listening attentively to the teacher's lectures. It was a rare sight to see such an atmosphere. "Brother Qin, Uncle is a teacher in the Du Academy, so I won't be going with you. If you need anything, you can send me a message with this badge." Xiao Yin gave Qin Nan a badge. Qin Nan expressed his gratitude and withdrew his aura with Gong Yang. "Should we ask Long Hu and Sima Kong to come?" Gong Yang said with a smile. "They aren't too far away from the city." Qin Nan twisted his lips and said, "Forget it, who knows what will happen when they are here. We'll talk about it later." The two entered the Du Academy as they chatted. "You must remember that the path of martial cultivation is a long one. Once you have achieved a certain level of cultivation, don't miss out on meeting a woman you like. You can marry her and support each other. Otherwise, once you miss out on the opportunity, you won't know how long you have to wait. Sigh, to be honest, my son was too slow back then. He's still alone after more than 100 years. A middle-aged man with white hair and wearing a purple robe said with a pained expression on his face. He held a bamboo scroll in his hand. The 30 or so children in front of him all laughed out loud. Every time they heard Qin Tian mentioning his son, they were amused. Gong Yang snorted and couldn't help laughing. Qin Nan's lips twitched. He did not expect his father to be so resentful. Qin Tian, you're talking nonsense again. At that instant, a displeased voice could be heard as a plump middle-aged man wearing a purple robe approached them. Kids, don't listen to Qin Tian's nonsense. There's no need to care about love in the martial world. Only strength is everything, the middle-aged man yelled. More than 30 children looked at him with their eyes wide open, but no one responded. Qin Tian wore a smile on his face as he said, "Cultivator Li Shua, what brings you here?" Although Yuelu Academy was very harmonious, where there were people, there would be conflicts. The disciples that Qin Tian had taught over the years were all superior to Li Shua. As time passed, Li Shua became dissatisfied in his heart and would occasionally come to find trouble. However, in Qin Tian's opinion, Li Shua was not a bad person, so he was not bothered by it. Li Shua lifted his head proudly. Just recently, my son achieved the martial god realm and became an inner elder of the Dabii sect. I'm here to invite you to a feast. More than 30 children suddenly exclaimed in admiration, their faces full of envy. The Dabii sect was one of the strongest factions in the sacred Emperor continent. It was only slightly weaker than the Tai, a heaven palace. Qin Tian immediately cupped his fists and said, "Then I really have to congratulate you properly." Li Shua thought Qin Tian was stunned when he saw Qin Tian's reaction. He said with great satisfaction, "By the way, didn't you always mention your son? If he's free, call him along. When the time comes, I'll tell Li Shua and ask him to give your son some pointers." Qin Tian waved his hand with a smile. "Don't bother, he's not in the sacred Emperor continent." Li Shua did not give up and said, "That's fine, just ask him to come. It's not like he has to waste too much effort. Did he ascend to the 9 heavens and never come back?" Chapter 1963. The two troublemakers. Now that his son had brought glory to his ancestors and soared into the sky, how could he let go of the opportunity? Even if his disciple was not as good as Qin Tian, at least his son was more outstanding than his son. Qin Tian was slightly absent-minded. He wondered how the kid was doing in the 9 heavens. "Not really, but I have no idea where he is now." Qin Tian shook his head and said. Even though he liked to talk about Qin Nan, he would only talk about Qin Nan's embarrassing stories or how dull Qin Nan was. He would never talk about Qin Nan's cultivation or other things. He was already old, thus he had no interest in achieving a higher level of cultivation. He only wanted to be a humble teacher. If it weren't for the sake of prolonging his life, he would not have become a martial ancestor. Li Shua said with a hint of disdain, "As a father, you don't know where your son is. It seems like your son is very unfilial." "Fine, fine, you don't have to ask your son to come." Qin Tian's expression turned cold. "Cultivator Li Shua, if you dare to say that my son is unfilial, don't blame me for falling out with you." He could not care less about other things, but he would not allow anyone to slander Qin Nan. Li Shua harumphed and said, "What is it? Did I say something wrong? If your son is filial, why wouldn't he tell you where he is?" Before he could finish, a voice interrupted him. "Father, I'm back." Qin Nan and Gong Yang came from the distance. Qin Tian was startled. He slowly turned around. His hand began to tremble when he saw Qin Nan. An indescribable feeling rose in his heart. That stinking brat really came back. How did you end up like this? Qin Tian collected his thoughts and asked while withholding his emotions. I was practicing some martial arts, it's fine. Qin Nan explained. Then, Qin Tian was about to say something when Li Shua blurted out, what a coincidence, we were just saying that you're unfilial and you're back. His eyes were filled with disdain. He assumed Qin Tian's son was just an ordinary person, thus Qin Tian purposely said he could not find Qin Nan. He did not want to bring Qin Nan to his son's feast, just so he would not be irritated by the comparison. I've only come to visit father now, I'm indeed unfilial. Qin Nan said he was unfilial. Li Shua waved his hand and said, let's not talk about this. Qin Tian has always been praising you. I wonder which power you belong to now? Since when? However, he still answered honestly with a smile, I'm currently a core disciple of the Sky Taihuang sect. Li Shua frowned. The Sky Taihuang sect? What faction is that? The name is quite imperious, but it must be a faction from other continents. At this point, he sighed and said, Qin Tian, you have to persuade your son. There's no need to enter such a small force. Young people still have to enter a large force. Only then will they have a chance. If your son's talent is not enough, and his cultivation is not enough, that's fine. When the time comes, I'll let my son know and recruit him into the Dabii sect as an outer sect disciple. Gong Yang couldn't hold it in and let out a puff. The Sky Taihuang sect, one of the 14 supreme Taoism factions in the Nine Heavens immortal realm, was just an insignificant faction in Li Shua's eyes. It was hard to imagine what the disciples of the Sky Taihuang sect would think if such a comment was made known to them. Qin Nan waved his hand and said, that won't be necessary. By the way, cultivator Li Shua, I've come back to have a chat with my father. Can you please leave? Li Shua was displeased. He was kind enough to give Qin Nan a chance, yet not only did Qin Nan not accept it, he even asked him to leave? How ungrateful of him! Li Shua twisted his lips. He flung his sleeves and left. It was meaningless to stay any longer. Qin Nan, you should show some respect to your elders. How could you say that? Qin Tian glared at Li Shua and said, that being said, that guy is really annoying. Alright, let's talk later. Come with me and tell me what you've been through. The three chatted with one another as they returned to the room. Qin Tian was especially excited when he heard that Princess Miao Miao and Jiang Bailan had come back to life. He even scolded Qin Nan for a few hours. He basically said that Qin Nan had already let them down. Now that they had come back to life, why didn't he marry them right away to continue the bloodline of the Qin family? Qin Nan was having a headache. He did not even dare to breathe too loudly. In the end, he swore a few vows before Qin Tian finally let him go. In the following period of time, Qin Nan forgot about the terrifying situation that he was about to face. He forgot about everything else. He just stayed by Qin Tian's side quietly, enjoying the warmth without going anywhere. 2 days later, Gong Yang and Xiao Yan suddenly showed up. Qin Nan, I'm afraid we have to go out for a while, Gong Yang said with a dark expression. What happened? Qin Nan was confused. His eyelids jumped as he thought of something. Don't tell me it's Long Hu and Sima Kong? Gong Yang sighed and rubbed the space between his eyebrows. That's right. I wanted to invite them over for a gathering yesterday, but who would have thought that they would do such a big thing yesterday? Xiao Yan said with a wry smile, the two of them are indeed extraordinary. Yesterday, the daughter of the Taiyé Heaven Palace's patriarch Yu Feng and the son of the Dabii sect's patriarch were supposed to be engaged. However, on the night of the engagement, Long Hu took the virginity of the Yu Feng's daughter. Then, Sima Kong stole one of the 5 great treasures of the Taiyé Heaven Palace. He even dug up the graves of the 3 previous patriarchs. Qin Nan's lips twitched violently. He slept with the female lead on the night of the engagement. He stole one of the 5 great treasures and even dug up the graves of the patriarchs? Xiao Yan added, the entire sacred emperor continent is in an uproar. The Tai Heaven Palace and the Dabii sect are infuriated too. They have sent out countless experts to hunt them down. They even offered shocking rewards. Qin Nan rolled his eyes and said, those two are so good at causing trouble. Let them bear the consequences themselves. Xiao Yan shook his head. Gong Yang said with a headache, it's fine if that's all. However, the Dabii sect and the Tai Heaven Palace didn't change their minds after the incident. They brought the engagement forward to tomorrow. Even though I don't know the details, Brother Xiao and I speculate that Longhu is truly in love with the daughter of the great Yufeng. With his temper and personality, I'm afraid tomorrow he will. Qin Nan raised his brows. Are you saying he will kidnap the bride? Gong Yang nodded and didn't say anything else. The situation was very obvious. Longhu and Sima Kong were strong and had many tricks up their sleeve. Even the sacred emperors were helpless against them. However, their strength was still too weak, compared to the entire Tai, a Heaven Palace and Dabii sect. If they tried to kidnap the bride, the outcome would be self-explanatory. Chapter 1964. The Wedding of the Two Sects and the Conspiracy. Xiao Yan glanced at Gong Yang and broke the silence. I think we should find Longhu and Sima Kong and stop them from doing it. Gong Yang let out a sigh and said, Brother Xiao, let's just forget about it. Xiao Yan was startled. He said, Brother Gong, what do you mean? It's obviously a conspiracy against them. If we just let them go like that. Gong Yang pointed at Qin Nan. Xiao Yan looked at him in confusion. Qin Nan shrugged and said, Let them do it, I'll lend them a hand. Gong Yang spread his hands and said, Even if he knows it's a conspiracy, he will still support Longhu and Sima Kong. Gong Yang was familiar with Qin Nan's personality. Even though it seemed like Longhu and Sima Kong were in the wrong, Qin Nan would still stand on their side without any hesitation. Just because of the words Longhu is truly in love with the woman of the Yufeng sacred ground. As long as the woman was truly in love with Longhu, Qin Nan would still support Longhu and the others to kidnap the bride regardless of the conspiracy. Xiao Yan coughed and said sternly, Brother Qin, I know your cultivation is unparalleled, but it's not easy to deal with the Tai, a Heaven Palace and the Dabii sect. I think we should come up with a plan even if we're going to kidnap the bride. Qin Nan smiled and waved his hand. It's fine, I know what I'm doing. But, Qin Nan chuckled coldly and said, I haven't even seen them since I came back to the lower realm, and they're already in trouble. Either way, we can't let them get away with it. We have to teach them a lesson. Gong Yang and Xiao Yan agreed. The three then bade farewell to Qin Tian and left the Du Institute. Meanwhile, in one of the top factions of the sacred emperor continent, the Tai, a heavenly palace, streams of majestic auras burst out continuously and soared into the sky. All the grand elders and elders appeared one after another, gathering information from their disciples and various factions to make arrangements. Formless killing intent filled the air. However, no one would have thought that under such circumstances, a total of 3 figures would enter the deepest part of the Tai, a heavenly palace. The figure in the middle was tall, with thick eyebrows and big eyes. He was the current Tai, a heavenly palace master, the great Yufeng sacred emperor. He was also the 4th strongest expert in the sacred emperor continent. To his left was a hunchbacked old man with thinning hair. To his right was a pale-faced young man. He was Yi Yunxing. Did you just say that Qin Nan destroyed the 12 evil cities with a single finger and destroyed the evil god temple with just his aura? An ethereal voice sounded from the darkness. If one were to take a closer look, they would be able to see an ancient, gigantic diagram that was faintly discernible. It was none other than the transcendent heavenly palace diagram formed by the origin energy. That's right. However, in my opinion, Qin Nan's cultivation isn't that strong. He must have obtained a part of the origin energy of the Kanglan continent and the primordial rules of the heavens and earth to support him. Yi Yunxing said with a resentful look. You're right. The ethereal voice appeared again. In my opinion, we should investigate Qin Nan and see how strong he is in the nine heavens immortal realm. The great Yufeng sacred emperor said with a frown. That won't be necessary. I'll find a way to lure him to the sacred emperor continent. Without the support of the primordial rules of the heavens and earth, his cultivation will weaken significantly. Besides, he can only unleash the strength of the human god realm. It doesn't matter how strong he is, he won't stand a chance against 10 peak human gods teaming up. If that's not enough, we'll have 20 or 30 human gods. That's more than enough. Yi Yunxing's eyes flickered coldly. Isn't the price a little too high? The great Yufeng sacred emperor frowned even more. Great Yufeng sacred emperor, I won't keep it a secret from you. Which continent in the secondary lower realm has someone like Empress Feiyue? Yi Yunxing said coldly, if we can get our hands on the Kanglan continent, the benefits are beyond your imagination. The great Yufeng sacred emperor's frown eased a little. That's right, if we can get our hands on the Kanglan continent and work with the Dabii sect, I'll surely be able to claim the 3 origin forces. Yi Yunxing, I'll leave it to you, I'll support you. The Taya Heaven Pattern said, of course, we still need to investigate Qin Nan's background. Yufeng, I'll leave it to you. Yi Yunxing and the great Yufeng sacred emperor nodded. Meanwhile, the Dabii sect, one of the strongest factions in the sacred emperor continent, the Dabii sect had only been around for 1,000 years. The people who established it were 10 experts from the 9 heavens immortal realm. They had even recruited a lot of others. The Dabii sect had claimed 2 of the top 10 experts of the sacred emperor continent. They had also claimed the Wuhuang Godly Mountain and the Wuhuang Godly Mountain, further increasing their strength. Qin Nan, Gong Yang, and Xiao Yan showed up in the biggest city under the Dabii sect. They concealed their auras and altered their appearances, preventing others from recognizing them. Qin Nan lifted his gaze. Unlike the murderous aura of the Tai a Heaven Palace, the Dabii sect was decorated with lanterns and colorful decorations, resulting in various rare phenomena. It was as if what Long Hu was up to had nothing to do with them. How is it? Are Long Hu and Sima Kong here? Gong Yang asked. They aren't here yet, but the people of the Dabii sect have set up a lot of traps, Qin Nan said. After that, the 3 of them casually found a restaurant and sat down. Nothing was going to happen for now. They would only wait until the wedding was held before Sima Kong and Long Hu started making their move. Time trickled by. From all directions, experts and big shots from different forces broke through the void and entered Dabii sect one after another. The people of the Tai a Heaven Palace finally arrived. It's going to start in half an hour, Xiao Yan said softly. Xiao Yan said in a low voice as he slowly put down the wine cup in his hand. Those 2 guys are here too. They aren't far from us. Qin Nan said with a calm smile. 10,000 zhang away from the restaurant, there was an extremely lively street. There were 2 black-robed men who were setting up a stall. Long Hu, how are we going to fight so many experts? No way, I'm not going to play with you anymore. Sima Kong, are you scared? Hee hee, don't give me that. Holy crap, are you really going to leave? Wait, I don't want my share anymore. I'll give it all to you. Oh? That's still very dangerous. I'm not doing it. Sima Kong, you're being too greedy. Fine, I'll ask you to give you the rest of the map once it's done. Chapter 1965. The bride snatching. Half an hour later, the wedding officially took place. The Wuhuang Godly Mountain and the Wuhuang Godly Mountain of the Dabii sect emitted a magnificent glow that surged across a few 10,000 li. Many cultivators were astounded by it. On top of it, the place was filled with the sound of drums and music. The roads were covered in red carpet. The atmosphere was lively and joyful. Meanwhile, in the main hall, the great Yufeng was sitting on the left while the patriarch of the Dabii sect, the great Mingxin, was sitting on the right. Below them were the experts of the two factions, the formidable factions of the sacred Emperor Continent, and the reputable rogue cultivators. The wedding was considered a grand occasion in the sacred Emperor Continent. There were more than 25 human gods in attendance. The Wengu sect congratulates young Master Mingchen and Yu Xiaoyu on their marriage. We present you with the painting of 100 saints crossing the river. God Lindong presents you with a will pill. The formidable factions and experts began to present their gift. Following it, they followed the customs of the sacred Emperor Continent and carried out a complicated ceremony. Now let's welcome the bride and groom, the master of ceremonies announced. The sound of drums and music immediately became louder. The great Yufeng, the great Mingxin, and the rest of the experts looked forward with a smile. A young man wearing a golden robe embroidered with dragon patterns and a woman with fair skin and delicate facial features wearing a red phoenix robe walked out of the hall hand in hand. Even though there was a smile on the young man's face, there was not the slightest bit of emotion on the young lady's face. It was as cold as ice. If one took a closer look, they could see the pain in her eyes. The great Yufeng is so cruel, he even used the soul-binding curse on his own daughter. Tisk tsk, even if Yu Xiaoyu isn't willing, she can't resist it. She can only let him control her. From the looks of it, the two great forces must have been planning something in secret. Many experts in the hall wore disdainful looks. At the same time, the eyes of many glittered as a thought crossed their minds. If the Taya Heaven Palace and the Dabii sect teamed up and claimed a portion of the Origin Force, it would not be a good thing for their factions. Bow to the Tao of Heaven and Earth. Young Master Mingchen and Yu Xiaoyu knelt down at the same time and kowtowed 3 times. Greetings to the sacred Emperor Continent. Husband and wife bow to each other. Heart-binding seal. One ceremony after another was carried out in an orderly manner. The last gift is to offer a cup of tea to your father. Father wishes you well. Young noble Mingchen and Yu Xiaoyu each picked up a cup of tea and walked in front of the 2 emperors. The holy emperor of Mingxin accepted the gift without any hesitation. He laughed heartily and said "good" 3 times in a row. However, there was an intense struggle in Yu Xiaoyu's eyes. Her white fingers actually tightly gripped the celestial tea, resisting that mysterious force, so she didn't take the initiative to hand it over. Ha ha ha, this child knows how to be shy now. The great Yufeng burst out laughing. He took the initiative to pick up the tea and took a sip. He then picked up Yu Xiaoyu's right hand and placed it in young Master Mingchen's hand. Mingchen, I'll leave you in your hands. From today onward, the 2 of you are the real Daoish. Yu Xiaoyu's eyes dimmed. There was no color in them. However, in the nick of time, a tremendous aura suddenly burst out from outside the hall and soared into the clouds. A series of dragon cries took place, covering the sound of drums and music. Whoosh! A giant sword that seemed to have come from hell pierced through the rift at a shocking pace and stabbed at the great Yufeng. How dare you! The great Yufeng Saint Emperor roared and struck out with his palm. That overwhelming power shattered the sword into pieces. Old man, your daughter is mine, a voice said as Longhu walked out from the rift. He was wearing a blood-stained armor. His long hair drifted in the wind while he was emitting an imperious aura. It's human god Longhu. He actually came here. This guy's guts are really big. The experts in the hall were dumbfounded by the sight. Apart from the alliance between the 2 factions, the wedding was also a conspiracy against human god Longhu. To their surprise, human god Longhu took the initiative to show up. Longhu, you're just in time. The great Yufeng rose to his feet with a murderous aura. You've committed a great crime in our Tai a Heaven Palace. I shall kill you with my own hands today. Following it, his figure immediately emitted a brilliant glow as his aura skyrocketed. He threw a punch in Longhu's direction. The great Mingxin said with a dark expression, "This man has trespassed in our Dabii sect. Elders, listen up, kill him at once." Countless runes appeared in the palaces and the rift of the Dabii sect, emitting a terrifying aura. They had already set up an inescapable trap. However, right at this moment a shocking change occurred. The Wuhuang Godly Mountain and the Wuhuang Godly Mountain that stood between the heavens and earth began to emit rumbling sounds, as if they were being provoked by some sort of invisible force. Then, the power of the two sacred mountains burst out completely. Countless boulders fell from the endless sky and rushed toward the entire Dabii sect at an astonishing speed. Most of them were heading for the main hall. Crap! They have taken control of the two godly mountains. The great Mingxin Emperor's expression changed. He turned into a beam of light and charged into the sacred mountain at high speed. Bang bang bang! A series of explosions took place. The formations that the Dabii sect and the Tai, a heaven palace, had set up previously were impressive, yet they began to break into pieces under the impact of the two godly mountains, resulting in strong gusts of wind. The experts in the main hall immediately unleashed their auras to defend themselves. The joyous wedding banquet suddenly became extremely chaotic. Longhu, you're very capable, but this is as far as you can go. The great Yufeng ignored everything. He fixed his gaze on Longhu like a deity and was about to pass judgment on him. Hee, old man, see you later. Longhu grinned and performed a hand seal. A ripple began to appear on his and Yu Xiaoyu's figures. The great Yufeng's eyes widened, but he could not make his move in time. He could only watch Longhu and Yu Xiaoyu vanish into thin air. They've already set up the trap. Chapter 1966. Demarcating the Land 1. The cultivators in the city below the Dabii sect were startled by the rare phenomenon of the two godly mountains. They immediately raised their heads. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Blinding rays burst out of the main hall like ancient swords that had been sealed for thousands of years. They soared into the sky and disappeared into the rift. 23 human gods led by the great Yufeng were on the move. Some of them were peak human gods too. It was quite a formidable formation. Qin Nan placed the cup in his hand down and said, "Let's go too." Gong Yang and Xiao Yan nodded their heads. The three of them instantly disappeared from their original positions. A few moments later, a few 100,000 li away from the Dabii sect, Longhu unleashed his god force to its limit and executed a forbidden art to fly forward at a great speed. His speed had surpassed the speed of ordinary peak human gods. "Brother Long," Yu Xiaoyu said with difficulty. "Don't worry, I'll bring you out of here," Longhu murmured. Longhu murmured and grinned, "Your two sisters are waiting for you. The four of us will be able to share a bed soon." A blush immediately appeared on Yu Xiaoyu's fair face. Buzz. The sky above them was dyed red all of a sudden. An ancient painting over 300 zhang long appeared. A brilliant white glow burst out of it and shone upon Longhu. Longhu's figure shuddered. It felt like a great mountain was crushing down on him, causing his speed to drop by 10 times. That old prick, how shameless of him to bring the 3 sacred paintings here. Longhu cursed. He spat out a few drops of blood essence. His left hand transformed into a tiger claw and drew a mysterious seal. Longhu! A loud roar echoed in the surroundings. The great Yufeng was the first to arrive. Faint blue runes gathered on his palm before he flicked his finger. Immortal art, heaven-shattering finger. Longhu's expression changed greatly. He let out a roar as 19 ancient rays burst out from his body. 19 different god weapons of the ancient era appeared. Bang! The 19 human deity weapons shattered one after another. The majestic aura that surged out shook Longhu, causing his qi and blood to churn. "Longhu, you have nowhere to run. The remaining 22 human god realm experts arrived too. 3 of them performed hand seals and unleashed countless runes to seal off the surroundings. Is that so? Longhu narrowed his eyes. Roar, roar, roar. A series of thunderous roars took place as several enormous dragons made of bones covered in purple-golden runes flew out of the rift and charged at the great Yufeng Emperor and the others. Battle Bone Dragon? The demon moon dragon tomb back then was indeed obtained by you. The great Yufeng let out a hollow laugh. He moved past the bone dragons and flicked his finger at Longhu. Yao Yu is alive. Longhu's hair stood on end and he quickly reacted. A shocking battle was about to take place. Even though Longhu's cultivation had reached the peak human god realm, it had only been a while since he achieved it, thus he was still a lot weaker than the great Yufeng Emperor. A few moments later, it was obvious that he was going to lose. Blood leaked out from his lips. In addition to it, the bone dragons that he had prepared were not sentient creatures. They were no match for the human god realm experts. Half of them had been eliminated since the battle began. Master Long, I'm here. A voice appeared in the nick of time. Following it, 2 illusionary mountains emitting a blinding glow came from the distance and suppressed the great Yufeng Emperor. The mountain spirits of the 2 godly mountains? Even the great Yufeng's eyes widened. He immediately executed an ancient immortal art. His figure began to expand rapidly. He turned into an 80-zhang tall giant with an ancient glow flowing across his body. Bang! The ground in all directions shattered inch by inch. The great Yufeng Saint Emperor's body was sent flying by the majestic force. "Ha, Sima, well done!" Longhu burst out laughing and said, "Set up the formation." Their figures began to shift between the 2 mountain spirits as they performed over 1,000 hand seals. The auras of the 2 mountain spirits began to merge with one another. They even unleashed wisps of energy that took root between the heavens and earth like a towering tree to absorb the force of the heavens and earth. How impressive of this god of thieves Sima Kong! He even managed to steal the mountain spirits of the 2 godly mountains. At this moment, the Mingxin sacred emperor had already caught up from afar. When he saw this scene, his face became extremely gloomy, and his killing intent almost condensed into substance. All cultivators of the Dabii sect, listen up. Come quickly and kill the thief. The 2 godly mountains were one of the foundations of the Dabii sect. Now that the mountain spirits were stolen, the Dabii sect's strength was significantly weakened. As such, the great Mingxin was infuriated. He was going to mobilize the entire sect to deal with Longhu and the great Yufeng Emperor. Longhu and the great Yufeng Emperor twisted their lip. However, they had no choice but to bite the bullet. Cultivator Mingxin, please calm down. Even though they have the 2 mountain spirits, they are like turtles in a jar. Let's work together to trap them here and slowly deplete the energy of the mountain spirits, the great Yufeng Emperor said. The great Yufeng Emperor said, "That's my intention too." The great Mingxin Emperor's eyes turned cold. Following it, 2 of the top 10 experts of the Sacred Emperor continent made their move. They occupied the east and west respectively and executed a series of immortal arts. The rift shattered as gusts of wind surged in all directions. Some of the human god realm experts led by the great Yufeng Emperor were free to target the 2 mountain spirits too. Chapter 1967. More elders and disciples of the Dabii sect were making their way to the battle. There were already 13 formations constructed by human gods and martial gods in the rift. Each of them possessed a destructive power, causing the 2 godly mountains to tremble vigorously. That being said, many cultivators of the Dabii sect did not take part in the battle, as there was no place for them to fight. For example, the newly promoted inner elder of the Dabii sect, Li Gui, had brought his father Li Shuo to witness the battle. "That Longhu and Sima Kong are going to die for sure today," Li Shua murmured. Li Shua muttered to himself. As a martial ancestor, he had only seen a single martial god expert fight from afar, but he had never seen such a terrifying battle. Of course, in this world, no matter who it is, if they provoke the two great powers like this, they will die without a doubt. Li Gui nodded. Li Shua's heart skipped a beat. He could not help but feel proud that his son was able to become an inner elder of the Dabii sect. When we return, I'll have a good talk with Qin Tian about this battle. Oh right, Qin Tian's son too. I bet they have never seen him with their cultivation and knowledge. Li Shua murmured. He would not let go of any chance to show off. At this moment, the mountain spirits of the two godly mountains began to dim. Yu Xiaoyu's eyes were struggling in pain. She wanted to ask Long Hu to leave her alone, but she could not open her mouth under the influence of the seal. Long Hu and Sima Kong were completely unaware of it. They were still performing some kind of mystical hand seal. Heaven-changing formation. A few hundred breaths later, Long Hu and Sima Kong let out a roar simultaneously. Runes of the formation spread out from the mountain spirits and intertwined with one another, unleashing wisps of ancient auras. I shall become the spirit of the formation with my body. Long Hu let out a roar. His figure was engulfed in a layer of blood as he landed on the formation. The heaven-changing formation was no ordinary formation. It was impossible to activate it with God force alone. It required a human God realm expert to activate it with their blood and qi. Sima Kong, what are you waiting for? Bring your sister-in-law away at once. Long Hu groaned. Got it. Sima Kong clenched his teeth and grabbed Yu Xiaoyu. Even though Yu Xiaoyu was clueless about the power of the formation, she sharply sensed something. Her eyes widened as her will shuddered vigorously. Don't worry, I'll come and find you soon. The four of us will have some fun then. Long Hu grinned. He ignored the godly glow and murderous intent. Bang! The great heaven-changing array immediately erupted with a vast power that swept out in all directions. You're trying to use the formation to drive them away? Long Hu, you're too naive. Saint Emperor Yufeng sneered when he saw this and said, Who is the master of the 4 seas and 8 wastelands? Tai Heaven. He performed a hand seal. He could only see mountains, rivers, forests, etc. appearing on the ancient drawing that was a few hundred zhang long before. A magnificent force burst out from it. Whoosh! An indescribable beam of light passed through the two mountain spirits and struck the formation. Long Hu spat out a mouthful of blood, as if he had just received a heavy blow to his chest. He was knocked flying. The heaven-changing formation broke into pieces too. You! Long Hu and Sima Kong's eyes widened. They had never imagined that such a scene would occur. Hee, even if it's only a wisp of the will of the Tai Heaven, nothing in the sacred Emperor continent can stop it. The two of you, just wait for your deaths. The great Yufeng grinned coldly. Long Hu's face turned pale. He fell to the ground as if he had lost all his energy. He was not afraid of death, but he had dragged his brother Sima Kong into this. Bang bang bang! Cracks began to appear on the mountain spirits of the two godly mountains as the immortal arts and formidable forces landed on them. Sima Kong felt like crying. Damn it! He still had a lot of treasures he had yet to steal. However, his eyes flickered viciously when he saw Long Hu's expression. He said, What are you afraid of? I've already prepared myself for this since I've come to help you. Long Hu, if you're a man, stand up and fight to the death. Long Hu's figure shuddered. He slowly rose to his feet and said, Brother, I'll pay you back in my next life. His gaze suddenly became incomparably resolute. Fight to the death. A shocking blast soon took place between the heavens and earth. The mountain spirits of the two godly mountains could not hold on any longer. They turned into light dots and surged in all directions. It felt like they were in a galaxy. The great Yufeng and the great Mingxin had been waiting for this moment. The god force in their bodies skyrocketed as they executed an immortal art. The rare phenomenon they triggered overshadowed the light of the crowd. Kill! Long Hu and Sima Kong roared into the sky and charged forward. However, even though they were prepared to die and their willpower had reached the limit, the difference in strength between them and the two Saint Emperors was just too great. With just a single strike, the two of them both vomited blood and were blown away. Die! The great Yu Feng and the great Mingxin followed closely behind with strong murderous intents. This time. It's really over, Long Hu murmured. He still had many regrets in his heart. For example, he still had two human characters that he had yet to acquire. Yu Xiaoyu had yet to bear him a child, and he had yet to meet the guy who had gone to the 9 heavens. However, he did not regret it. It was the responsibility of a man. In the nick of time, a magnificent force came out of nowhere and erased the murderous intents of the two sacred emperors. What just happened? The experts and cultivators were dumbfounded. This scene came too suddenly, too quickly. They had no idea what was going on. Besides, how did the two sacred emperors manage to erase the murderous intents of the two sacred emperors within an instant? Who's there? The great Yu Feng and the great Mingxin were startled. Sacred emperors, it's been a while. A faint voice sounded. Gong Yang and Xiao Yan walked out of the void at the same time. Brother Yang. Long Hu and Sima Kong were startled. It's you? The great Yu Feng was startled. His expression turned cold as he said, What is it? Are you trying to help them? The divine Emperor Mingxin roared, If the two of you dare to interfere, then I'll kill both of you as well. Even though Gong Yang and Xiao Yan were very strong, the Dabii sect was not as weak as they thought. Gong Yang and Xiao Yan remained silent. Sacred Emperors, I'll let it go today. Consider it a favor for me. Another voice appeared. Qin Nan walked out of the rift and approached Long Hu and Sima Kong. You! Long Hu and Sima Kong were startled. This. Chapter 1968. One man guarding the pass wasn't the young man with blue-red hair Qin Tian's unfilial son? Why would he show up here? Especially what he had just said. He had actually asked the two Saint Emperors to give him face and let go of human god Long Hu and human god Sima Kong? Qin Nan? It's you? The great Yu Feng's eyes widened. Gong Yang and Xiao Yan's appearance was only a little troublesome for him, but the mysterious Qin Nan had given him a great pressure. The strongest immortal, Qin Nan? He's here too? Many of the factions and experts were astounded. Many of them were disciples or cultivators of formidable factions in the 9 heavens immortal realm. They were well aware of Qin Nan's identity. However, similar to Yi Yunxing, they had come to the Kanglan continent a long time ago. They only knew Qin Nan's Tao Foundation was destroyed after he became the strongest immortal. You're back. Long Hu and Sima Kong's figures trembled slightly. They had thought of Qin Nan many times over the past few decades, yet they thought it would be at least 50 years, or even 100 years before they could see him again. Yeah, I've only been back for a few days, yet you're already causing trouble here. Qin Nan said grumpily. Qin Nan. The great Mingxin snapped as he collected his thoughts. I know who you are, and I know your strength is extraordinary too. You managed to eliminate the evil shrine on your own. However, these two have committed serious crimes. If you insist on helping them, don't blame me for being merciless. The great Yu Feng said in a deep voice, Friend Qin Nan, I hope you won't interfere with it. He was indeed intimidated by Qin Nan, but the crowd was watching them, not to mention the crimes that Long Hu and Sima Kong had committed. If he decided to let them go just because of Qin Nan's words, the Tai a Heaven Palace would be utterly humiliated. They would become the laughingstock of the world. He would not allow such a situation to occur no matter what. Li Shua, who was in the crowd, was thoroughly shocked. Wasn't this Qin Nan from a mediocre sect? Now, 2 Saint Emperors were actually so fearful of him? Then there's nothing to talk about. Qin Nan shrugged and waved his arm. In an instant, a 10,000 zhang long ravine appeared in front of the crowd. This is the boundary. Those who cross it will bear the consequences, Qin Nan said indifferently. The great Yufeng Sacred Emperor, the great Mingxin Sacred Emperor, the rest of the experts, and the factions nearby were dumbfounded. This Qin Nan, wasn't this a little too arrogant? A mere person actually dared to threaten their 2 great forces? Brother Yang, Brother Xiao, take Long Hu and Sima Kong back first, Qin Nan said. Even though he could simply leave with Long Hu and Sima Kong, it was not a long-term solution. He had to settle it once and for all. Got it. Gong Yang and Xiao Yan nodded. They waved their hands and brought Long Hu, Sima Kong, and Yu Xiaoyu into it before flying into the distance. How dare you! The great Mingxin Sacred Emperor was infuriated. His aura soared into the sky as he slashed at Gong Yang and Xiao Yan as if he had turned into an ancient godly sword. As for the words that Qin Nan had just said, he completely forgot about them. However, as his figure approached the ravine, a shocking saber intent burst out from the ravine, illuminating the surroundings in a snow-white color. The great Mingxin Sacred Emperor felt like he was struck by lightning. His scalp turned numb as a great sense of danger rose in his heart. He subconsciously backed away, not daring to cross the ravine. The great Mingxin Sacred Emperor is backing away. That saber intent is too terrifying. A centipede will never fall over even if it is dead. The surrounding factions and experts were astounded. Fellow cultivators, why don't you reconsider my suggestion? Qin Nan said. After all, Long Hu and Sima Kong were in the wrong first. He could not simply pick on the 2 factions with his cultivation. That's impossible. The great Yufeng rejected the suggestion. Qin Nan, you're too full of yourself. The great Mingxin Sacred Emperor took a deep breath and said, no matter how strong your cultivation is, you're only a peak human god. You're only one person. The 2 of us might not be able to defeat you, but do you think you can stop all of us if we work together? Cultivators of the Dabii sect, listen up, attack together. The great Yufeng yelled, attack. At that moment a shocking sight took place. 2 sacred emperors and almost 50 human gods erupted with blinding light as they performed several hand seals. Their formidable auras shook the heavens and earth, sweeping strong gusts of wind. Immortal art of the 9 Heavens Palace. Immortal art of the great North Emperor. Mountain-shaking sword art. Several immortal arts were executed simultaneously, taking the form of illusionary figures attacking Qin Nan. Looking from afar, it was as if there was a long river of immortal arts, rolling up huge waves that were about to flood down. Even though the other forces and experts in the distance did not participate in the battle, they could still feel the terrifying power within. 5 words corpse slashing sword. The great Mingxin Sacred Emperor yelled. He drew a strange symbol in the air with his blood as the guide. A pitch-black longsword with 5 words written on it appeared. A murderous intent immediately surged in all directions. The great Mingxin Sacred Emperor has used one of the artifacts of the Dabii sect? It seems like the experts of the Dabii sect who are in deep slumber are about to wake up too. Many experts exclaimed in shock. Qin Nan lifted his gaze. His eyes were engulfed in a faint white flame. He began to make his move. He did not perform any hand seals, nor did he unleash any aura. He only flicked his finger against the overwhelming immortal arts, just like what he did to the evil shrine. Bang! A terrifying force surged forward. On top of that, they scattered into over 10,000 dragon-like saber cheese in the air and slashed at the immortal arts one after another. Bang bang bang! Densely packed explosions rang out one after another. All of these immortal arts were slashed apart one after another. They could not even last for a single breath. In addition to it, the remaining force struck many human gods like a godly dragon swinging its tail. The cultivators below the fifth-layer human god realm groaned in pain. Their figures were sent flying like arrows fired from a bow. The cultivators above the fifth-layer human god realm were startled. They immediately executed their arts to defend themselves. This, the great Yufeng, the great Mingxin sacred emperor, and the rest of the factions and experts were dumbfounded by the sight before them. A casual attack had shattered the immortal arts and left 10 human gods with serious injuries. What if Qin Nan used his full strength? Chapter 1969. Qin Nan, someone tried to kill your father, but Xiao Yan and I have stopped them. According to my interrogation, Yi Yunxing asked the Taya Heaven Pattern to deduce your father's whereabouts when he learned you were in the Sacred Emperor continent. I'm afraid he's trying to threaten you. You should be careful. Yi Yunxing must have some backup plans. The person who transmitted the message was Gong Yang. Yi Yunxing and the Taya Heaven Pattern, how bold of them! A cold smile appeared on Qin Nan's face. His family and brothers were one of his reverse scales. No matter who dared to touch them, he would never let them off. Cultivator Yufeng, please send a message to the Taya Heaven Pattern and ask it to lend the Dabii sect a hand. The Dabii sect will repay the favor. Don't you worry, the great Mingxin Emperor said after collecting his thoughts. Even though the experts of the Dabii sect, who were in deep slumber, had woken up, Qin Nan's strength was just too terrifying. They had to send a bigger team just in case. However, before he could finish his sentence, a voice rang out. Qin Nan suddenly appeared in front of the great Yufeng. His hand emitted a godly glow as he grabbed the great Yufeng's neck. Everyone stared at the scene with a blank face. This scene happened too quickly, so quickly that they couldn't react at all. The great Yufeng sensed a great danger. He unleashed the god force in his body as he tried to make his move. However, he was shocked to discover that there seemed to be a supreme power that was suppressing everything in his body. Right now, he was no different from a mortal. You have 3 breaths to tell me where the Taya Heaven Palace is, Qin Nan said calmly. The great Yufeng stiffened. Why was Qin Nan asking about the Taya Heaven Palace's location? 3 breaths have passed. Qin Nan remained expressionless. The glow on his hand suddenly grew stronger. The great Yufeng felt like his entire body was being slashed by a myriad of ancient blades, and he felt unprecedented pain. He couldn't help but cry out in agony. Qin Nan suddenly thought of something. He frowned and tossed the great Yufeng to the ground in the distance. You, tell me where the Taya Heavenly Palace is. Qin Nan looked at a peak human god beside the great Yufeng. Qin Nan soon obtained the location of the sect. He glanced at the great Mingxin Emperor and the others before vanishing into thin air. Between heaven and earth, there was complete silence. Qin Nan had once again brought them a great shock. The dignified great Yufeng Saint Emperor was actually unable to put up any resistance in front of Qin Nan. A casual move from him could kill him instantly. Such a cultivation was already far beyond the level of the 10 great Saint Emperors. Right? He must have gone to the Taya Heavenly Palace. Something big is going to happen. Soon after, many forces and experts realized this. Meanwhile, the Taya Heavenly Palace, countless disciples could clearly sense ancient and terrifying auras being emitted from the mysterious depths, causing their hearts to tremble in fear. Yi Yunxing stood at the leading position in the main hall. He looked at the human gods and yelled, "Everyone, we will split into 8 groups. The first group will follow God Celestials and establish the Golden Dagger Immortal Exterminating Formation. The second group will follow." The human gods nodded with a stern look on their faces. Yi Yunxing's eyes flickered coldly. When he learned that Qin Nan had come to the sacred Emperor continent and was going against the Dabai sect for Long Hu and Sima Kong, he immediately joined forces with the Ta Heaven Pattern without hesitation. This was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. The Dabai sect's strength was only slightly weaker than the Tai Heaven Palace. All they had to do was wake up the human god realm experts who were in deep slumber. With the help of the Dabai sect and the Tai Heaven Palace too, they would be able to kill Qin Nan. So what if you're the strongest immortal, i.e. Yunxing, will still kill you today? A shocking aura burst out of Yunxing's body. If they were still in the Nine Heavens immortal realm, even a heaven immortal realm expert like him would not dare to treat Qin Nan like that. However, they were currently in the secondary lower realm. Bang! At this moment, a deafening explosion rang out. Countless streams of astral energy swept out in all directions. Countless screams rang out at the same time. The spacious Tai, a heaven palace, immediately fell into chaos. What's going on? Someone is attacking the Tai, a heaven palace? Yunxing, the human gods, and the human gods that had woken up from deep slumber were startled. Their faces were filled with great astonishment. Did someone in the sacred Emperor continent dare to attack the Tai Heaven Palace? Over the past few hundred years, even peerless rulers did not dare to treat the Tai Heaven Palace like that when they came to the secondary lower realm. In the midst of their astonishment, they quickly made their way out. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. More than 40 figures appeared outside the Tai Heaven Palace. Each of them was in the human god realm. Unlike the human gods from before, they were all above the 8th layer human god realm. Most of them had even reached the peak human god realm. Who are you? How dare you attack the Tai Heaven Palace? A spirited old man with a head full of white hair looked at the collapsed palaces before looking at the young man with long green and red hair not far away and shouted sternly. He was one of the 10 sacred emperors too. His name was Randi, and his rank was only below the great Yufeng. The others glared at the young man too. Only Yunxing's eyes widened. He could not believe it. Qin Nan? Did he really come to the Tai Heaven Palace alone? Ha ha ha, Qin Nan, as expected of the strongest immortal, to dare to come here alone. None of us can match your courage. Yunxing burst out laughing as he collected his thoughts. Let me guess, are you acting so recklessly because you're trying to harm your father? Qin Nan's face remained expressionless. However, his right arm slowly broke into pieces and turned into an icy ancient saber. It was the first time he had drawn out the saber since he returned to the secondary lower realm. Qin Nan, you chose to come to hell instead of taking the path to heaven. Everyone, listen up, let's attack together and kill this prick. Yunxing's smile instantly turned twisted. Even though the Tai Heaven Palace did not have the help of the experts of the Dabai sect, it was still their territory. Since the establishment of the Tai Heavenly Palace, countless traps and treasures had been set up. Even an earth god would have to die here. However, before he could finish, a white saber glow flickered in front of him. Chapter 1970. Forceful Destruction. My hand, my hand. Yunxing's face immediately paled. In the end, he produced a miserable shriek that rang out in the surroundings. Randi and the human god realm experts were dumbfounded. Yunxing's strength had significantly surpassed the strength of ordinary peak human gods. He was on par with the top 3 sacred emperors. However, Qin Nan had already severed his arms after just a single clash. Qin Nan, how bold of you! An ancient, imperious roar suddenly exploded. The sky above the Tai Heaven Palace instantly turned pitch black as strong gusts of wind swept in all directions. It was obvious that the Tai Heaven Pattern was alerted. The Tai Heaven Pattern, right? Come here and accept your punishment. I won't hold you responsible for what happened before. Qin Nan said coldly. You want me to accept my punishment? What a joke. The Tai, a heaven pattern, almost burst out laughing. Either way, it was still the primary force that first gave birth to a spirit and intelligence in the sacred Emperor continent. If the plan worked, the entire sacred Emperor continent would belong to it. As for Qin Nan, he was only a cultivator from the mundane world. Everyone, listen up, kill that bastard! The Tai, a heaven pattern, yelled. Qin Nan, die! Randi and the human god realm experts collected their thoughts. Their figures emitted blinding glows as they executed a series of immortal arts and god art. Kill. In addition to them, the human god realm experts that had woken up from their deep slumber broke the black chains and soared into the sky. They attacked Qin Nan from all directions. The formidable auras shook the entire Tai, a heaven palace. Formations appeared one after another, flickering with different colors. They protected the palaces within them, preventing them from being crushed by the aura, pressure, and wind. The outer disciples, inner disciples, and elders of the Tai, a heaven palace, stood in their palaces and watched the scene before them. Even those who had achieved the martial god realm were lost in their thought. The scene before his eyes was simply too shocking. At the center of this monstrous storm, Qin Nan's heart was as still as water. Since that was the case, he could not be blamed for going on a killing spree. Shua! Qin Nan made his move. He vanished into thin air within the blink of an eye, dodging the immortal arts and god art. He reappeared behind an 8th-layer human god realm expert and slashed at him. Saber will filled the air and blood splattered everywhere. The 8th-layer human god realm expert died before he could even cry out in agony. Qin Nan did not stop there. He swung the saber in his hand backward. The eyes of the two 9th-layer human gods widened. They quickly activated the artifacts in their bodies. Bang, bang, bang! Their treasures shattered in an instant, and their figures were also swallowed up. Nine-eyed torch dragon flame. Seeing this, Randi let out a long roar, and dragon-shaped flames gushed out from the dark sky, carrying a terrifying temperature as they attacked Qin Nan. White flames flickered in Qin Nan's eyes. The dragon-shaped flames immediately backed away and collapsed as if they were being judged by the heavens and earth. They completely vanished in less than a breath's time. How is this possible? Randi was astounded. That was his natal godly flame. Even if Qin Nan was strong, there was no way he could make it disappear with a single glance, right? However, little did he know, even the Nongyen tribe that possessed the 10 great flames in the 9 heavens immortal realm was no match against the Tao-melting immortal flames. He was even more astounded following it. It was as if the immortal arts and god arts that the human gods were executing did not exist at all. Qin Nan simply went through them and slashed at Randi. The slash seemed ordinary, yet it contained a terrifying power that made his soul tremble in fear. He was unable to resist it. Bang, bang, bang! At this critical moment, a series of earth-shattering explosions rang out. In the vast sky, 3 incomparably huge formations were activated. On a divine mountain in the distance, countless stones glowed, forming an ancient formation. The hundreds of palaces below lit up at the same time, exuding the same aura. All kinds of formations and forbidding auras were awakened too. The area within 100,000 li was filled with all kinds of glows. The formations and forbidding auras were constructed by the Tai, a heaven palace, over countless years. Each of them possessed a formidable power. The 5 formations in particular were utterly terrifying. Even the strongest sacred emperor would not dare to face 2 of them at once. That was not all. A mysterious door seemed to have opened up from nowhere. Vast, pure energy surged out and surged into the bodies of all the people present. The auras of the various human gods immediately soared, one after another. At the same time, wisps of invisible force landed on Qin Nan's body, causing him to feel heavier, as if he was being shackled by a giant chain. The place within 1,000,000 li was tired of Qin Nan too. It was rejecting Qin Nan, trying to drive Qin Nan out. The Tai, a heaven pattern, had made its move. It had altered the rules of cultivation nearby to deal with Qin Nan. Kill. The human gods made their moves once again. The Tai, a heaven palace, fully displayed its strength. Many peak human gods took out ancient swords, sabers, halberds, etc. They all had ancient auras and strong glows. They had reached the level of earth god weapons. There was even a bell among them that had reached the level of heaven god weapons. Qin Nan remained expressionless. However, two ancient intents were unleashed in his body. His body was emitting a faint glow. Dragon soaring art. The roar of a dragon entered the ears of the cultivators. It was as if Qin Nan had turned into an ancient heavenly dragon with the power to destroy the heavens and earth. He swung his claws and swung his tail, shattering the formations, forbidding auras, and immortal arts into pieces. Two peak human gods with earth god weapons failed to dodge in time and were struck by the dragon tail. Their artifacts were shattered instantly. Their flesh was shattered into pieces by the impact too. Break! The giant dragon claw grabbed the heaven-shattering saber and slashed forward. Wisps of saber intents surged forward. The earth god weapons and even the heaven god weapons began to tremble vigorously. Their glow dimmed as they broke into pieces. Qin Nan lifted his gaze and unleashed his eye technique. 3 wisps of invisible force landed on the 3 terrifying formations like the fists of a god. The formations began to tremble vigorously as they could not withstand the force. They eventually shattered into light dots. Wrath of the Sacred Emperor. Chapter 1971. Until the End of the World. The rules of cultivation within a million li became restless. Ancient, incomplete swords and figures with different auras appeared one after another. Dao jolting saber art. Qin Nan summoned thousands of clones with a flicker. They all slashed forward, unleashing wisps of saber intents to shatter the Tai heaven pattern into pieces. In addition to it, the Tai heaven pattern and the human gods clearly sensed a terrifying force accumulating in the air. 1,000 years play, dream painting. The Tai heaven pattern uttered a roar. The pattern slowly spread across the sky. Over 10,000 rare phenomena immediately appeared and attacked Qin Nan. The human gods immediately unleashed their will. They executed a series of immortal arts and god arts in coordination with the rare phenomena, formations, and forbidding auras. Qin Nan's eyes remained calm. He advanced instead of backing away. It was as if his dragon figure was illusionary. None of the attacks could land on him. However, every time he swung his claws, artifacts would be destroyed. Human gods would cry out in agony and die. The remaining force even destroyed some of the formations and forbidding auras. As he swung his saber, space would be reduced to chaos wherever the saber chi passed by. It was impossible to stop it no matter what they did. Many peak deities could only watch as they were slain on the spot. Yi Yunxing, who had lost both of his arms, was completely terrified when he saw this. Qin Nan's cultivation was just too terrifying. Even if the Tai heaven pattern was able to stop him in the end, there was no way Qin Nan was going to let him go. Yansheng tried his best to withdraw his aura as he sensed death looming over him. He carefully sneaked away in the storm. However, before he could escape, 99 illusionary saber intents landed on his shoulders, chest, and legs. They avoided his heart and pinned him to the ground. Yansheng immediately cried out in agony. He had no chance of fighting back. We can't stop him. Finally, the human gods were completely dumbfounded by the blood-red color. Their hearts were filled with fear. Qin Nan's cultivation was too terrifying. He was like an invincible god. Whoosh! The cold saber light illuminated the entire world. The saber intent of the Dao-jolting saber art had been formed. Even though Qin Nan had purposely weakened the power of the Dao-jolting saber art by half, the Tai, a heaven pattern, and the human gods still felt a great sense of danger. forever suppressing the mountains and rivers. The Wushang sky painting emitted a dazzling golden light. It was as if it was no longer a painting, but a supreme deity. Boom! The saber aura swept across the sky like a hot knife through butter. The rules of cultivation within a few 100,000 li were turned into chaos. The golden glow was erased. The remaining force struck the Tai, a heaven pattern mercilessly. A painful groan rang out, and the world within a radius of 1,000,000 miles dimmed a little. This attack had caused it to suffer quite a bit of damage. Be careful! A peak human god who had been asleep for 1,000 years yelled. The Tai, a heaven pattern, felt a great chill running down its spine. It soon saw the terrifying man rising into the sky and charging at it. Statues of the emperors. The Tai, a heaven pattern, immediately emitted a golden glow. The forbidden area within a few thousand li of the Tai, a heaven palace, collapsed immediately. 13 statues with wisps of immortal glow and formidable auras flew toward the Tai, a heaven pattern. All of the human gods immediately felt a tremendous pressure weighing down on them. They were the statues of the 13 experts that had ascended from the Tai, a heaven palace. They had achieved the peerless ruler realm in the 9 heavens, immortal realm. When they returned to their homeland, the Tai, a heaven pattern, purposely asked them to leave their will behind. It was meant to be used at a crucial moment. A mere will of a peerless ruler dares to stop me? Be gone. Qin Nan uttered a cold grunt. The wills of the 13 figures of experts were utterly crushed before they could unleash their full power, causing them to explode and vanish into thin air. How is this possible? The Tai, a heaven pattern, could not believe it. Either way, they were the remains of 13 peerless rulers. How could their wills be shattered so easily? Bang! Qin Nan's slash landed on the Tai, a heaven pattern. The place immediately darkened. The Tai, a heaven pattern, let out a cry of agony. Qin Nan, you better remember this. The Tai, a heaven pattern, began to panic. It immediately shrunk and turned into a brilliant golden ray flying into the distance at an unbelievable pace. Did it run away? The peak human gods could not believe their eyes. The pillar of the Tai, a heaven palace, or rather, the pillar of their faith, was running away on its own? Trying to run away? Qin Nan let out a hollow laugh. He vanished into thin air. As one of the primary forces of the sacred Emperor continent, even though the Tai, a heaven pattern, was not particularly outstanding, its speed of escaping was outstanding. No one could match its speed. Unfortunately, it had offended Qin Nan this time. When it was about to reach the northernmost place, and let out a relieved sigh, its figure stiffened when it sensed an aura coming from behind. Who exactly are you? The Tai, a heaven pattern, was not stupid. It finally realized that Qin Nan was not the strongest immortal whose Tao foundation had been destroyed. I'm someone who's here to get my revenge, Qin Nan said calmly. The Tai, a heaven pattern, finally realized that Qin Nan's expression did not change at all. Qin Nan, don't you force me. The Tai, a heaven pattern, snapped. If you insist on killing me, I won't let you have it easy either. Meanwhile, on the other side, the great Mingxin Emperor, the human gods of the Dabii sect, and the experts of other factions were heading to the Taiyin Heaven Palace. They had received news that Qin Nan was fighting the Taiyin Heaven Palace on his own. They were utterly shocked by the news, thus they immediately made their way here. What's going on? Why is the place so dim all of a sudden? They soon realized that something was not right when they approached the place. This Qin Nan is too dangerous. As Yi Yunxing said, we should work together and kill him here. The great Mingxin Emperor murmured. However, as he continued to approach the place, he and the experts and cultivators felt like they were struck by lightning. There were countless ravines, shattered walls, and blood everywhere. Yi Yunxing, who had been nailed to the ground, as well as the pale-faced deities, disciples, and elders who stood on the ground. Chapter 1972. Meanwhile, in the northernmost land, the Tai a heaven pattern calmed down once again. Friend Qin Nan, it's my fault for what I did before. I'm willing to apologize to you. If you're willing, I can give it to you. Qin Nan waved his hand with a cold look. It's too late for you to admit your guilt now. Following it, a sharp saber glow lit up the darkness in all directions and slashed at the pattern mercilessly, causing it to cry out in agony once again. Qin Nan, I'm going to kill you. The Tai, a heaven pattern, made up its mind in the desperate situation. It let out a roar into the sky. The pattern turned into white rays that lit up the area within a few million li. At that instant, the area within a few million li no longer belonged to the sacred Emperor continent. It had become an independent world. The rules of cultivation no longer existed. It was similar to the second continent of the Kanglan continent. Qin Nan, your cultivation is indeed terrifying. No one can stand a chance against you. However, even if I can't harm your flesh, I can still erase your will. Roars and screams could be heard everywhere. Amidst the white light, an illusory giant that stood shoulder to shoulder with heaven and earth suddenly appeared. It was so majestic that it was inconceivable. All the immortal mountains in the world could not compare to it. The Tai, a heaven pattern, went crazy in the desperate situation. It burned its origin force to claim a new place from the sacred Emperor continent. It was the only ruler of the place. In that case, its willpower would reach a terrifying level. Trying to kill me with your will? Qin Nan's lips curled upward. He did not use his will. The Tai, a heaven pattern, was the first to do so. Qin Nan, die. The magnificent giant began to move. Its enormous hand swung at Qin Nan as if it was carrying the power of the sky. Whoosh! At that instant, an ancient blue glow appeared. The divine battle spirit floated behind Qin Nan's back, with a pair of blue eyes staring down at everything. Boom! The white light within a few million miles shattered into pieces as if it was being punished by an immortal. The illusionary giant's figure crumbled into pieces too. An even more miserable shriek rang out. The original form of the transcendent heaven palace diagram appeared and completely smashed into the ground. Its light became incomparably dim, and its aura withered to an unprecedented level. The Wushang heaven painting couldn't accept it at all. But soon it saw a shocking scene. The world was shaking and the laws were in chaos. Countless gusts of wind and lightning swept in all directions. Even though the sacred Emperor continent had greatly surpassed the other continents, it still could not withstand the presence of the blue figure behind Qin Nan. Qin Nan quickly withdrew the divine battle spirit. When he unleashed the divine battle spirit, he purposely suppressed the aura of the divine battle spirit. Otherwise, the northernmost land would cease to exist, and would be crushed into chaos. Fighting in the lower realm this time, I really have my hands tied. Qin Nan exclaimed. He was about to slash forward with his saber. To him, destroying a part of the origin force of a continent in the secondary lower realm was like attacking a human immortal. He would not be bothered by it at all. At that instant, the ownerless heaven pattern in his divine sense suddenly unleashed a great force to absorb the Tai, a heaven pattern. Could it be that the ownerless heaven pattern can recover by absorbing the origin force? The thought crossed Qin Nan's mind. He began to study the pattern carefully. However, the ownerless heaven pattern did not show any reaction after waiting for more than 1,000 breaths. Forget it, I'll wait and see. Qin Nan shook his head. He vanished into thin air. The next day, the sacred Emperor continent was in a great shock. Qin Nan went to the Tai, a heaven palace alone with his saber. The Tai, a heaven painting was destroyed, 30 human gods were killed, Yunxing was crippled, and half of the sect was destroyed. It was not much different than being wiped out. The patriarch of the Dabii sect immediately declared that the Dabii sect would be sealed for 200 years. None of its disciples were allowed to show themselves as an apology. Many factions, including the experts from the Nine Heavens immortal realm, and the people of other continents were dumbfounded. How could a single person's cultivation be so outstanding? However, when they learned Qin Nan was an exceptional genius in the greater success stage of the peerless ruler realm in the Nine Heavens immortal realm, they fell silent. Such a terrifying person was on par with the legendary Empress Feiyue of the secondary lower realm. It was reasonable for him to be able to achieve such a feat. Following it, it triggered a series of chain reactions. The Kanglan continent's status in the secondary lower realm skyrocketed. It almost became one of the 5 continents. The central continent and other continents changed their attitude toward it. There was no need to mention it again. Qin Nan returned to his father and reunited with Long Hu and Sima Kong. He no longer showed up in front of the others. Time gradually passed. Spring went and autumn came. 1 year after another passed. Many things were happening in the continents of the secondary lower realm. Qin Nan stayed by his father's side all the time. Qin Tian's hair finally turned white. Qin Nan wanted to help Qin Tian improve his cultivation, but Qin Tian had no intention of doing so. He firmly rejected the offer many times. In the end, Qin Nan finally convinced Qin Tian to improve his cultivation. Qin Tian barely managed to improve his cultivation to the martial sacred realm with the promise of marriage. Many years later, on a snowy day, in a residence, Qin Tian was wearing a long robe made of beast hide. Even though his face was full of wrinkles and his age was obvious, he still looked energetic. He had an imperious look when he was wearing a furious expression. "You son of AB******ch, do you think you can disobey me now that you've become a peerless ruler? It's time for you to improve your cultivation. How could you possibly stay by an old man's side all the time? What are you talking about?" Qin Tian snapped furiously. "Father, I already told you, a day in the Nine Heavens immortal realm is equivalent to 30 days in the Kanglan continent. It's only been a while since I came back from the Nine Heavens immortal realm. Don't worry, I'll be there in a few days." Qin Nan spread his hands helplessly. "A few days? How many days has it been since you left?" Qin Tian snapped angrily. "If you don't leave now, I'll treat it as if you're not my son." Qin Nan let out a wry smile and said, "Fine, fine, I'll leave." It seemed like the old man was completely infuriated this time. He had no choice but to leave. Qin Tian's expression softened slightly. He harumphed and said, "That's more like it." Qin Nan immediately said, "However, you should focus on your cultivation. You should at least improve yourself to the peak martial sacred realm." As a matter of fact, Qin Nan could forcibly help Qin Tian achieve the martial monarch realm or even the martial god realm, but the martial monarch realm was the dividing line of the martial path. If Qin Tian was not aware and experienced enough, forcibly improving himself would only harm his soul. That shouldn't be a problem. Qin Tian smiled and said, "However, you have to promise me that you'll get married right away after you become a Nine Heavens Supreme and bring them back with you. It would be best if you can bring a grandchild with you." Qin Nan pretended he did not hear it, but he had no choice but to nod when Qin Tian glared at him. Qin Nan then relieved Yunxing, who had been struggling on the verge of death. "Father, I'll be leaving then. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.